Chapter 2202. This must be Yi Qingluo's nonsense. She wanted to use the profound palace to pull him down. Director, what should we do? Yin Xiang and the director thought of the same thing. Yin Xiang felt the same way too. How could things be so coincidental? Why would the Lord of the Profound Palace specially look for Yi Qingluo to ask about the Heavenly Academy? Not to mention whether the Profound Palace would pay so much attention to the Heavenly Academy. Even if they really wanted to ask about the situation of the Heavenly Academy, then the one. If it was not Grand Elder Yun Yun, then it should be the president of the faculty council. No matter what, it couldn't be Yi Qingluo. Yin Xiang, the only one I can trust is you. This dean will absolutely not let that bitch oust this dean. The director grabbed Yin Xiang's shoulder. You help me keep an eye on that slut, see who she wants to promote to be the dean. Then tell this matter to the president of the faculty council, Si Yanmu. President Si? Yin Xiang was stunned. He is just a student, tell him. You don't need to know why. In short, as long as she is sure who she wants to promote as the dean, tell Si Yanmu. Si Yanmu will think of a way for me. The director's face was gloomy, his tone was sinister. As long as we get through these 3 days, when I get out everything will be settled. Yin Xiang looked at the director's confident expression. Although he was curious about the relationship between Si Yanmu and the director, but he still nodded obediently and replied. Director, don't worry, I will keep an eye on Yi Qingluo. The dean calmed his heart and looked at Yin Xiang. With a smile on his face, he patted Yin Xiang's shoulder heavily and said, Yin Xiang, as long as I can keep my position as the dean, I will definitely uphold justice for you as the first elder. Yin Xiang's eyes lit up, his face was filled with joy. Yin Yin had been pressing on his head for so many years. And every time, he would put on a nice guy look, constantly stopping any decision he made. If the Grand Elder became him, he could trample on Yin Yin fiercely. A sharp glint flashed past Yin Xiang's eyes. He smiled and bowed to the director. I am willing to serve the dean till my death. The two looked at each other and laughed softly. In the dark night, no one noticed that a petite figure in red was leaning leisurely against a wooden pillar at the entrance of the ancestral hall. The moonlight seemed to coat the girl with a layer of silver brilliance. It made the young girl look like a fairy that had descended from the heavens. Her lips curled into a teasing smile as she stared at the ancestral hall with a faint smile. Everything that was said in the ancestral hall was clearly heard by her. He had to admit that the heavenly dean had some brains to be able to be the dean for so many years. At the very least, he had guessed correctly that she had used the upper profound hall to scheme against him. However, so what if he guessed correctly? He was trapped in the ancestral hall, and his reputation had plummeted. What kind of storm could he set off in 3 days? 3 days, it could change many things. Looking for Si Yanmu for help? The girl sneered. His figure suddenly seemed to melt into the air bit by bit, disappearing into thin air. The next day, Yi Qingluo led the 10 students she had chosen, and under the guidance of Yin Duan, they headed towards the class of gods to report. Just as he walked out of the devil class courtyard, then he was surrounded by a large group of students from different classes. This made the students of the devil class feel overwhelmed by the favor. One must know that in the past, no matter where they appeared, they would be treated with disdain by the other students, or even directly humiliated by them. Although later on, they won the championship in the interclass competition, and there were some people who supported them. Chapter 2203. But after this school's exchange meeting, after the misfortune in the West Continent, the students, towards these young boys and girls in devil class, all admired them from the bottom of their hearts. What they admired, not only the devil class's ability, it was also the spirit and faith that they had passed on. These youngsters were no longer the ones whom they mocked and ridiculed in the past. They relied on their own strength, persevered in the training, using their strong willpower to create a miracle that belonged to them. All these left a deep impression in the hearts of the students. It also gave the students a strong belief. They wanted to change themselves. They wanted to become strong. They wanted to not be looked down upon by others. Then they would rely on their own efforts, their own willpower, their own confidence. In each and every failure, reflect on themselves, break through themselves, create a miracle that belonged to them. These students who were once called trash had done it. Then they, the elite students who were selected by the Heavenly Academy, possessed a much stronger innate talent than the youngsters in Devil class. They would definitely be able to do it, to become stronger. A place where ability reigned supreme. Ability was the best way to conquer people's hearts. Under the respectful escort of a bunch of students, the Devil class students were sent to the entrance of the Class of God's courtyard. Yin Duan stopped in his tracks and looked at Yiqing Luo amiably. Student Yiqing Luo, this is the Class of Gods, please lead the students in. Elder Yin Duan is not going in? Yiqing Luo looked curiously at this place which the Heavenly Academy regarded as the God Institute. From the looks of it, there was no special difference from their Devil class courtyard. The exterior design, decor, style were exactly the same as the current Devil class courtyard which had been cleaned up. The only difference was, it was the plaque above the courtyard. Written in flamboyant calligraphy were the words Class of Gods. Class of Gods is a very special existence in the Heavenly Academy. It's similar to the Heavenly Hall. If there's no urgent matter, not only the elders, even the dean cannot enter. Yin Duan explained. Then, can I still come out during the special training? Yiqing Luo asked again. Of course you can. As long as the special training assigned by the Class of Gods Master is completed, you can leave the Class of Gods anytime. Yin Duan seemed to see through Yiqing Luo's thoughts. You can also return to Devil class anytime. Yiqing Luo let out a sigh of relief. If he couldn't leave the God class after entering. As for the dean's matters, she could not interfere. What an interesting game. It would be too boring if he couldn't interfere. Then we'll go in first. Yiqing Luo looked at the wide-opened courtyard door of the I class, and it was filled with a vast expanse of white rays. Unable to see the scene inside clearly, Cloud smiled and nodded. The 11 people from the Devil class stepped into the courtyard of the Class of Gods one after another. When the last person disappeared into the white light, the courtyard door, which had been opened wide, suddenly closed. The surrounding students exclaimed in surprise. Their eyes were filled with envy as they pointed at the yard of the Class of God, and discussed animatedly. Behind the crowd, Yun Xiang, who was dressed in a white robe, stared gloomily at Yiqing Luo and the others who had entered the Class of Gods, as a chilly glint flashed past his eyes. The special training for the Class of Gods lasted for a month. In this 1 month, Yiqing Luo probably didn't have the energy to find trouble with the director. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity, together with Si Yanmu, to make use of Yiqing Luo to go to the Profound Hall, deliberately fabricate the news that she wanted to abolish the director, and spread it throughout the academy. Chapter 2204. When Yiqing Luo and the rest entered the Class of Gods, everyone immediately felt a ripple-like feeling envelop their bodies. The few of them sucked in a breath of cold air, as they instinctively moved closer to Yiqing Luo's direction, as they released their senses vigilantly. That feeling of rippling water slowly spread out from Yiqing Luo's silhouette. Yiqing Luo wasn't unfamiliar with this feeling. When she entered the hall master's bedroom in the upper profound hall, she had felt this kind of airflow feeling. This is a high-grade enchantment. Old Man Song explained in her mind. This kind of enchantment can only be created by cultivators with profound cultivation, at least sky profound 8th grade and above. Your cultivation is too low. So when you pass through this kind of high-grade enchantment, you will feel the fluctuation of the enchantment. High-grade enchantment? Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. What's the difference between this and Fengling's enchantment? Old Man Song replied. In Nirvana realm, Fengling's grade of enchantment master is not bad, and she is very talented in enchantment. But the enchantment and one's own profound energy are inseparable. No matter how powerful her enchantment is, your profound grade is above hers. Although her enchantment can trap you, but it won't affect you too much. In other words, Class of God's enchantment, not only could it trap her, it would also affect her. Old Man Song saw that she didn't speak for a long time, so he persuaded. You don't need to mind it, didn't that elder said earlier. As long as you complete the training mission, you can leave the Class of Gods anytime. Amen. Yiqing Luo responded. Enchantment. No wonder it's the high class of gods. This courtyard's entrance even has an enchantment. Xiao Jin clicked his tongue. We also have an array. Yen Xiaoyi snorted in her eyes. No class could be compared to their devil class. Let's not talk about this for now. The most important thing now is to find the academy that we are going to. Long Yinzhan's cold voice rang. The 10 over people surveyed the surroundings and all kept silent. In their imagination, after entering the class of gods, they would be dazzled by the splendor, gold and jade splendor, the high-class atmosphere. But who knew? After they entered the class of gods, it was a vast expanse of whiteness in front of them. If the few of them were a little further away, that meant that he couldn't see the other party at all. It turned out that when they entered the gates of the class of gods courtyard, the vast expanse of whiteness wasn't created by the class of gods to act mysterious. It was true, a vast expanse of whiteness. He could not see the road ahead, nor could he see the road behind. What the hell is this place? There's not even a guide. Is this how the class of gods treats its students? Baiming Lulu frowned in displeasure. Class of gods has never treated the students of the Heavenly Academy as their classmates. Tong Ziqing sneered. Indeed. In the Heavenly Academy, the class of gods was a legendary existence. How could the students of the class of gods care about the other students? Yes. I've asked around before coming here. Enai Rupin lowered her voice and whispered. The instructors of the class of god are experts from the upper realm. Upper realm? The youths widened their eyes in astonishment. A person from the upper realm coming to the Nirvana realm to be a teacher. Isn't that destroying the balance of the Nirvana realm? Chapter 2205. People from the upper realm head to the lower realm to guide the extremely talented cultivators, which is a common occurrence in the upper realm, because they are nurturing their realm's future elites. Hearing Qiao Jin's explanation, Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly, which is to say Nirvana realm as a lower realm. All those who are eliminated by the upper realm will stay in the lower realm, while those who are chosen by the upper realm will be nurtured to their satisfaction and brought back to the upper realm. Xiao Jin's thin lips curled into a ridiculing smile. Right, this is what those sanctimonious hypocrites from the upper realm say. To the upper realm and other realms. The Nirvana realm was an abandoned place. And this kind of abandoned place, if there were one or two good breeds, they would first nurture them for a period of time, and see if they could be brought back to their realm. No wonder the students from the class of God were spread to be so miraculous. Upper realm hypocrites? Jinzi, how do you know the people from the upper realm said such things? Enai Ruopan heard Xiao Jin's words, and sensed something different. Right, and it sounds like Jinzi is very familiar with the upper realm. Baiming Lulu nodded in agreement. Dan Baishi also nodded. Jinzi, why are you so familiar with the upper realm's matters? Quickly tell us, do you know anyone from the upper realm? Xiao Jin's expression changed greatly from being questioned. He hurriedly hid behind his wife. Yen Xiaoyi couldn't wait to strangle Xiao Jin to death. This was obviously Xiao Jin's own fault, and he actually hid behind her. But Xiao Jin was the descendant of the Huangfu family from the heaven realm of the upper realm. It had to be kept a secret. It wasn't that they didn't trust their own brother. But this kind of matter, the fewer people who knew, the safer it would be. Just as the couple was racking their brains, thinking of how to avoid this question, Yiqing Luo suddenly raised her arm. Stop fooling around, smell carefully, do you smell anything? The few who were fooling around immediately restrained their expressions. The few of them sniffed seriously and shook their heads. No. Wait. Baiming Lulu cried out. I think I smell it. What do you smell? The other students asked curiously. Baiming Lulu looked at Yiqing Luo with uncertainty. I smell the smell of pills. Medicinal pills? The students were puzzled. They moved their noses and sniffed for a long time, but they didn't smell any medicinal pills. Yiqing Luo nodded. Yes, it's the smell of medicinal pills. When Baiming Lu appeared, she immediately smiled and heaved a sigh of relief. Yiqing Luo took a look at the 10 people beside her. Since we can't find the way, then let's follow the smell of the medicinal pills. As long as we can see a figure, Then we will be able to find the academy. The 10 of them had no objections. Yiqing Luo and Beiming Lulu used their noses to lead the way. The 11 people walked for about the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. The white mist of immortal qi in the surroundings gradually faded. They could vaguely see a large door in front of them that seemed to be rippling in the white mist. It was getting closer. Everyone could clearly see that it was indeed a large door. There was also a huge stone statue of a phoenix lying in front of the door, ready to take flight. The feathers of the fiery red phoenix shone with red light. It looked very lifelike. At first glance, it was somewhat similar to her family's Qi Yin. Qing Luo, look behind the stone statue. Chapter 2206. Yiqing Luo shifted her vision from the stone statue to the direction which Yan Xiaoyi was pointing at. Indeed, behind that stone statue sat a young man who was eating something while leaning against the wall. The young man looked handsome, and he gave off a lazy aura. He was holding a jade bottle in his hand, and was pouring something out from it, stuffing it into his mouth. It was a medicinal pill. It was the medicinal pill which Yiqing Luo and Beiming Lulu had smelled. The young man didn't seem to notice that someone was approaching. He chewed the medicinal pill in his mouth for a while before pouring another pill, and throwing it into his mouth. He was eating it with great relish. If it wasn't for the fact that Yiqing Luo could clearly smell the medicinal pill's fragrance, she almost thought that this young man was eating an ordinary candy. It'll be easier if there's someone around. He must be a student from the class of God. Let him lead the way. Yan Xiaoyi walked up in quick steps, until Yiqing Luo stopped in front of the young man. The young man then slowly raised his head as he swept a lukewarm glance at Yan Xiaoyi. That gaze seemed to be sweeping germs. Yan Xiaoyi could clearly feel the disdain in the young man's gaze. Yan Xiaoyi's explosive temper instantly couldn't take it. What's with that gaze? What did I do to you? Is there a need to look at me with such disdain? Xiao Jin hurriedly chased up as he pulled Yan Xiaoyi's arm and brought her into his arms. Xiaoyi, don't be rash. We're in their territory now, so calm down, calm down. Yan Xiaoyi hadn't said a word. That young man threw the jade bottle and kept it into his sleeves as he shot a glance at the furious-looking Yan Xiaoyi with a smile which didn't look like a smile as he scoffed. Yan Xiaoyi instantly exploded. Stinky brat. What's with your attitude? Do you think you're very handsome and think that I'm here to strike up a conversation with you? What's there to be arrogant about? The young man glanced at Xiao Jin lazily as he ridiculed. Your eyesight is so bad, but I'm very assured. His words had a hidden meaning, apparently mocking Xiao Jin's ordinary looks. Yan Xiaoyi could bear with it when she herself suffered grievances. But when she heard someone attacking her man, her temper flared up in an instant. Just because of your honor? I don't like you at all. You're so ugly that even the gods would be enraged. You're ugly to a whole new level. Yan Xiaoyi retorted without holding back. Xiaoyi. When Xiao Jin saw that his wife was so protective of him, he was very pleased in his heart. However, the current situation wasn't suitable for any conflict with the students of the class of gods. Xiao Jin hugged Yan Xiaoyi tightly as he consoled her softly. Xiaoyi, I don't care what others say about me. Don't clash with him, leave this to Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi felt suffocated. He couldn't get rid of it no matter what. I'm sorry, this sister of mine has a bad temper, but she doesn't have any ill intentions. Tong Ziqing walked slowly to Yan Xiaoyi's side and gently patted the back of her hand. Following that, her cold gaze landed on the young man. We are the students from the devil class that won the Heavenly Academy's interclass competition. Can you lead the way and bring us to the academy? When Tong Ziqing walked out, the young man's eyes were fixed on Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing was silent for a moment when she saw that he was silent. Then, she took out 2 medicine bottles from her interspatial pocket. These were pills which Beiming Lulu had specially refined according to Yiqing Luo's prescription. If this student is willing to lead the way, these 2 bottles of middle-grade pills will be our thanks. Tong Ziqing said as she walked to the front of the young man and passed the medicine bottles to him. Chapter 2207. Tong Ziqing's eyes were cold. I don't know. The young man took out the medicine bottle that he had just tossed into his sleeve and threw it at Tong Ziqing. I've just finished my headmaster's special training. I'm resting here and eating some snacks. Tong Ziqing did not understand what he meant. She took the bottle in her hand and looked down at it. Ziqing, show it to Lulu. Yiqing Luo said. Tong Ziqing handed it to Baiming Lulu. Baiming Lulu poured out one pill and placed it in front of her nose to sniff it as her expression turned into shock. Qing Luo, this is a high-grade medicinal pill, profound assembly pill. High-grade Qian gathering pill? Yiqing Luo was also rather surprised. A high-grade medicinal pill was worth 1,000 gold. On the other hand, the profound condensation pill was a medicinal pill used to consolidate the cultivation of profounders and replenish their origin energy. If the high-grade profound gathering pellet was placed in an auction, it would definitely be fought over by countless cultivators. Of course, it was not to say that the Heavenly Academy did not have any top-grade Qian gathering pills. After all, the Heavenly Academy had Ghost Doctor, a master alchemist. However, every class would be allocated high-grade Qian gathering pills according to the students' overall results. Even high-profound class 2 could only get 2 bottles at most. Other classes would be considered lucky if they could get 1 bottle or 5 or 6 pills. For the past devil class, they were completely unable to get a single profound gathering pill. But that youth just said, was this the snack he ate after the special training? Just from looking at how this young man was stuffing Qian gathering pills into his mouth one after another, he was indeed treating them as snacks. It was the pill that every class dreamed of. In the class of gods, it was a snack for the students. Without comparison, there would be no harm. Even if they had Yiqing Luo, this extremely talented alchemist, and Baiming Lulu from the divine Dr. Baiming family, these 2 top-rated alchemists in the devil class. It was impossible for them to treat Qian gathering pills as snacks. Devil class students expressed, what a waste of heavenly treasures. What a stab in the heart. Tong Ziqing looked at the medicine bottle in Baiming Lulu's hand, and then looked at the medicine bottle in her hand. There was no special change in the expression on her face. Even high-grade Qian gathering pills could be eaten as snacks. It was no wonder that he looked down on this kind of middle-grade medicinal pill. The class of gods lived up to its name. Tong Ziqing expressionlessly took the bottle, and was about to put it back. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew against his face. Then his hand was empty. Tong Ziqing took a few steps back warily and looked up. The young man waved the 2 medicine bottles in his hands at her. But since this is a token of love from this little beauty, I will reluctantly accept it. Tong Ziqing's face darkened and her eyebrows furrowed. Why did this youth's words sound like he was teasing her? Before Tong Ziqing could speak, her arms suddenly tightened and her body suddenly fell back a few steps. Tong Ziqing was slightly startled and turned to look behind her. When she met a pair of icy blue eyes, a hint of joy surfaced in her eyes. Class monitor. Long Yunjian looked coldly at Tong Ziqing and pulled her behind him as he looked expressionlessly at that lazy young man. Student, since medicinal pills to you are just ordinary snacks, then those 2 bottles of middle-grade medicinal pills, why do you need to take them? The young man's brows rose as his gaze swept past Long Yunjian and Tong Ziqing. Little beauty's token of love, it's not valuable so I naturally take it. Long Yunjian frowned slightly. Chapter 2208. When he said that, the few people in devil class all froze. Even Tong Ziqing unknowingly clutched her sleeves tightly as she lowered her head, not daring to look at Long Yunjian. She didn't open her mouth to stop the young man's question. When Long Yunjian stood up and blocked in front of her, Tong Ziqing's heart was already soaring. The young man teased her. Was Long Yunjian jealous? So that was why he stood out to help her? When she heard the young man asking, that little beauty, is she your woman? Tong Ziqing's heart almost jumped to her throat. She was anticipating Long Yunjian's reply, but was also afraid of Long Yunjian's reply. The others were well aware of Tong Ziqing's secret love for Long Yunjian, so naturally they wouldn't interrupt this question. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Based on her understanding of Long Yunjian was afraid. Her expression congealed slightly. as she was about to open her mouth to break this stalemate. But she heard Long Yunjan's thin lips moving slightly, as his voice was calm, as he said word by word. No. Devil class's students' breathing tightened. They all looked at Tong Ziqing worriedly. No. 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 Two simple words, as sharp as a blade, piercing towards Tong Ziqing's heart time and time again. Her eyes turned slightly red from the piercing. Her hands, which were hanging by her side, clenched tightly, and clenched even tighter. Her usual cold and indifferent expression was unable to be maintained. Her eyelashes were trembling non-stop, as though tears were about to flow out. The stubborn and arrogant Tong Ziqing. But because of these two piercing words, she almost threw away her helmet and armor. Yiqing Luo's heart ached, as she wanted to go up to comfort her. But these two's matter was destined that outsiders would not be able to interfere. Before she had even taken a step, that Tong Ziqing who had lowered her head, had already slowly raised her head. On her face she still had that arrogant attitude. Only the red rims of her eyes betrayed her feelings. She is my very important brother. Your words are too frivolous, and will ruin her reputation. Long Yunjan's faint voice rang once again. He didn't turn back, as though he couldn't feel the stiff atmosphere. He didn't notice that the woman behind him had almost shed tears because of those two words. The lazy young man looked at the woman behind Long Yunjan with interest. He waved the bottle in his hand again. How is this ruining her reputation? The little beauty had clearly said that she would lead the way and give him the medicine. Now that I have the medicine, I will naturally lead the way. Since you've led the way, isn't it only right for me to accept these 2 bottles of thanks from the little beauty? The youth's words were flawless. Long Yunjan frowned and his eyes were cold. Behind him, the woman's cold voice sounded indifferently. Student, since you've accepted the gift, please lead the way. Tong Ziqing walked out from behind Long Yunjan. Seeing Tong Ziqing, the smile on the youth's face widened. His curved eyes made him look even more dazzling. However, Tong Ziqing could sense the glint in the depths of his smiling eyes. It was as if he could see through her soul with a single glance. Tong Ziqing blinked her sore eyes, trying to calm her heart down. Ziqing. Long Yunjan's tone was slightly heavy as he glanced sideways at the woman beside him. Towards you he. No matter. Tong Ziqing interrupted him calmly. Finding the academy is more important. He didn't care. What was so important about the young man's feelings towards her? Long Yunjan took a look at the young man, and eventually didn't say a word as he retreated back to Yiqing Luo's side. Chapter 2209. The youth walked in front of Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing furrowed her brows and took a step back, putting some distance between them. She looked up at him. The youth stood tall and straight, a full head taller than her. Tong Ziqing's heart trembled. Looking at a youth from this angle, it really made the youth's face look extremely handsome. But her expression didn't change as she said faintly, "Please lead the way." The youth's lips curled into a mischievous smile. All of a sudden, he bent his head down and planted a kiss on Tong Ziqing's forehead with lightning speed. The youth's clear voice rang in Tong Ziqing's ears. "Little beauty, remember my name. I am Si Minghan." He was already 10 steps away from Tong Ziqing when he finished speaking. No one had expected him to do this. Tong Ziqing seemed to be shocked. She stood there motionlessly with a look of shock on her face. After a long while, her cheeks turned red and her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. You lecher. Is this how students from the class of gods behave? Long Yunjan reacted. He moved his palm and attacked in Si Minghan's direction. Si Minghan winked at Tong Ziqing and easily dodged Long Yunjan's attack. You want me to lead the way? Other than this gift, of course there are other gifts. Cold air emanated from Long Yunjan's body. He attacked Si Minghan with his palm again. I've already received the gift I deserve. Do you still want me to lead the way? Si Minghan raised his eyebrows mockingly, completely disregarding Long Yunjan's attack. After easily dodging it again, he took out a jade bottle from his sleeve and started eating snacks. Long Yunjan's eyes were cold. He turned to look at the blushing Tong Ziqing and his blue eyes flashed coldly. Lead the way. Tong Ziqing suddenly said faintly. Her voice was slightly hoarse but her emotions were calm. Long Yunjan's attack paused and he frowned at her. Tong Ziqing's gaze was fixed on Si Minghan. She narrowed her eyes and said coldly, "Since you've received the gift, don't waste everyone's time." Si Minghan smiled and nodded. "You're right, little beauty. Let's go, I'll lead the way." As he spoke, he pushed open the door behind the phoenix statue and walked in. Tong Ziqing followed behind. Long Yunjan frowned. "Ziqing, It doesn't matter." Tong Ziqing glanced back at him and smiled faintly. "It's more important to find the school." Then he followed behind Si Minghan. Long Yunjan furrowed his brows and clenched his fists as he followed. The few devil class students behind him had a face of shock. He didn't understand at all. Why did things happen so strangely? "Qing Luo, what do you think? What kind of situation is this?" Yen Xiaoyi was also stunned. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes. "That fellow, he might have taken a fancy to our Ziqing. And it was love at first sight." "Then what about the class monitor?" Yen Xiaoyi also felt that the kid had taken a liking to Tong Ziqing. That brat's attitude towards her was so bad. But when he saw Tong Ziqing, he seemed to have changed into another person. But if someone fell in love with Tong Ziqing, wouldn't their class monitor continue to be single? Ajanhe. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips. Perhaps this Si Minghan's appearance timing is rather good. At least, it can let Ajan understand his own heart as soon as possible. Earlier, Long Yunjan's performance obviously showed that he cared about Tong Ziqing. Chapter 22:10. After stepping into that big door, that vast expanse of white immortal qi had already disappeared without a trace. Yi Qing Luo and the rest finally saw the surrounding environment clearly. A very standard class configuration. Right now, the place where the 11 of them were walking to was a small-scale training ground. There were 5 weapon racks placed around it. Yi Qing Luo could tell at one glance that the weapons on the weapon racks were all at least of the pure grade and above. These weapons, although they weren't considered as top-quality weapons, but to be able to use pure grade weapons, at least their reputation and ability in the pugilistic world were considered to be at a decent level. No wonder they were the class of gods. In this aspect, they were just so heroic. Further ahead, it was another large-scale training ground. There were 2s and 3s of students dressed in white, sitting cross-legged in the middle of the training ground. The other devil class students didn't understand what was going on. What are they doing? Don't tell me. They're raising their internal strength? Bei Ming Lulu didn't know much about cultivation. The other students shook their heads. Maybe it's a special cultivation method in Class of Gods. Beside those students who were sitting cross-legged, stood a male student. After hearing Devil Class's words, the gaze he shot towards them became extremely ridiculing. From his nose, there was even a disdainful cold ridicule. That student didn't conceal it. That cold humph was clearly transmitted over. Yen Xiaoyi's expression instantly changed. Xiao Jin hurriedly held her shoulders. "We've just arrived, so if we can avoid trouble, try not to stir up any trouble." They're raising the level of their profound jade heart. The clear and melodious voice spoke slowly and slowly, speaking extremely clearly. Yen Xiaoyi's attention was also diverted. "Qing Luo, you say? They're doing this to raise their profound jade heart grade? Didn't the profound jade heart grade follow the advancement of the profound grade and breakthrough? Could it still cultivate its own profound jade heart on its own?" Yi Qing Luo nodded. Her charming eyes calmly swept past those 6 people who were sitting cross-legged. "This training ground has been chosen very well, and the spiritual qi is very abundant. It's indeed especially suitable to nurture the profound jade heart." The others didn't quite understand what she was saying. The male student who gave a cold humph earlier had an extremely ugly expression on his face. Even Si Minghan, who was leading the way, couldn't help but look at Yi Qing Luo. This student from the devil class was rather interesting. He even knew about nurturing the profound jade heart. In the entire Nirvana realm, there weren't many people who knew that profound jade heart could be nurtured after birth. This method was taught to them by a teacher from the upper realm. He didn't expect that this devil class student would be able to tell that they were nurturing their profound heart jade with a single glance. It seemed that this year's Heavenly Academy was quite interesting. It was no wonder that Zi Qianqian was reluctant to come back after leaving the God class. The two students in the class of God had all sorts of guesses about Yiqing Luo. But what they didn't know was that Yiqing Luo was able to clearly see where the hearts of those students who were sitting cross-legged and nurturing their profound heart jades was also the place where the profound heart jades were nurtured. It shone with an extremely dazzling light. That light caused her profound heart jade to gradually become scorching hot. She forcefully suppressed the uncomfortable feeling transmitted from her profound heart jade. Narrowing her charming eyes, she stared at the place where those students' profound heart jades were. 6 students, 2 green light profound heart jades, 3 blue light profound heart jades, and 1 was actually an indigo light profound heart jade. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple. These 7 grades. There were actually students in the class of God who had attained indigo grade profound heart jade. Chapter 22:11. After passing through the second profound jade heart training ground, the front turned into a small path. At the end of the small path, there were numerous small paths that branched off. Every path leads to a different place. Si Minghan explained as he pointed to those few small paths. That leads to the physical fitness training ground. That leads to the endurance training ground. And that leads to... He pointed one by one. Devil class's students' eyes were filled with astonishment. Class of Gods really had all the facilities. Every training ground was specially built for this purpose. And all kinds of entertainment facilities. After Si Minghan finished pointing, his gaze shifted to Tong Ziqing, who had been following behind expressionlessly, and blinked. How is it? Are you satisfied with my explanation? Feel that your gift of thanks is worth it, right? The handsome young man was extremely refreshing. Tong Ziqing was slightly stunned. Not knowing why, seeing Si Minghan's blinking look, that refreshing smile. She actually thought of 2 words. Clean. Sunshine. Right. Si Minghan's smile was extremely pure and clean. And there was a kind of look of a battle pet trying to please its master. Moreover, his entire person was like a beam of sunshine. When he smiled, she actually felt warm in her heart. Lead the way. Please lead the way properly, don't disturb my brother. Long Yunjian's body suddenly blocked in front of Tong Ziqing. He looked at Si Minghan expressionlessly, warning him. Si Minghan's brows rose as his smile disappeared. Brother? A real brother? Wouldn't specially disturb his brother's love right when it's about to arrive? Just you? The first time you see Ziqing and you're talking about love? Long Yunjian shot a cold glance at Si Minghan. Haven't you heard of love at first sight? Si Minghan wasn't the slightest bit embarrassed as he said straightforwardly. At first sight, I'm already moved by this little beauty. His straightforwardness and no bashfulness made the other students in Devil class suck in a breath of cold air. As for Long Yunjian, he only stared coldly at Si Minghan. The expression on his face was still expressionless. But Yiqing Luo could clearly feel it. Long Yunjian's imposing manner at this moment dropped to the freezing point. And Tong Ziqing, who was standing behind Long Yunjian, after hearing Si Minghan's words, couldn't help but be stunned. At first sight, she was moved. Si Minghan saw the surprise in her beautiful eyes. Si Minghan chuckled. Little beauty, don't tell me you don't believe in love at first sight? Love at first sight. Tong Ziqing's eyelashes trembled slightly. The moment he looked up, he saw a figure blocking his way. For some reason, his eyes felt a little sour. She forced herself to hold it in and said in a hoarse voice, I believe you. How could he not believe it? She fell in love with Long Yunjian at first sight. Once they saw each other, it was hard to forget. Ziqing. Long Yunjian frowned slightly and turned to look at the woman behind him in confusion. His azure eyes gazed deeply at her. He also saw the redness in the woman's eyes. There was an inexplicable sense of irritation in his heart. There was a hint of impatience on his calm face. Did you also fall in love with him at first sight? He was protecting her. But she, on the contrary, spoke up for that lecherous wastrel? Tong Ziqing's red lips moved. Her beautiful eyes, which were slightly misty, clearly reflected the impatience on his face. Her heart felt a dull pain as her eyelids drooped. Class monitor, you can dislike me, but please don't insult my feelings towards you. She pushed Long Yunjan aside and walked past him, taking quick steps forward. Chapter 22:12. Tong Ziqing glanced coldly at his outstretched hand and directly ignored it. Go to the academy and report to master. Si Minghan wasn't embarrassed at all. Instead he smiled even more joyfully. All right, little beauty, whatever you say, I'll listen to little beauty's arrangements. His playful look didn't make Tong Ziqing's expression ease up at all. She followed behind Si Minghan expressionlessly, as they walked towards one of the small paths. Si Minghan had been whispering amusing words beside Tong Ziqing's ear, as he kept on laughing. Tong Ziqing's cold attitude didn't affect Si Minghan at all. The other students in Devil class looked at the two of them, who were 10 steps away from them. One cold and one hot, one noisy and one quiet. Somehow they felt. There was a very compatible feeling. Their goddess Ziqing had always been cold and aloof. Towards any strangers, she wouldn't show any face at all. But she actually walked so close to a man whom she had just met for the first time? This was the first time in her life. The students subconsciously turned their gazes towards Long Yunjan. To tell the truth, their goddess Ziqing liked the class monitor, but they had never thought highly of it. Not to mention the class monitor's character. If the two of them were to be together, wouldn't they create a cold atmosphere for each other every day? Moreover, the class monitor apparently had no thoughts on this aspect. He didn't even reciprocate the goddess's love. To a lady, how cruel was this treatment? Why are you looking at me? Long Yunjan's expression was gloomy, as his azure blue eyes flashed with blue light, as though it was decorated with ice crystals. He was still the same, expressionless and extremely apathetic. But those students who had interacted with Long Yunjan for a long time could clearly feel that. Long Yunjan's low pressure could directly freeze someone to death. In case the brothers froze to death. Yiqing Luo walked briskly to Long Yunjan's side, as she lightly patted his shoulder. Ajan, do you think that Si Minghan is reliable? Long Yunjan's body stiffened. He glanced sideways, as he looked at the little hand on his shoulder. His heart suddenly quivered. His gaze subconsciously looked towards Tong Ziqing's direction. Coincidentally, Tong Ziqing's gaze was also looking at him. After sensing his gaze, Tong Ziqing immediately retracted her gaze, as her eyelids drooped downwards. Long Yunjan's body stiffened even more. Ajan. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly, as she looked suspiciously at the silent Long Yunjan. Could it be that Si Minghan had used too much force on Tong Ziqing, causing Long Yunjan to lose his mind? I'm fine. Long Yunjan's eyes moved slightly as a sliver of panic flashed past. He raised his hand and moved Yiqing Luo's hand away from his shoulder. Si Minghan. That fellow, his actions are frivolous. One look and I know he's a frivolous playboy. I don't trust him. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up as she smiled sweetly. Are you sure that it's because he's frivolous so you don't believe him? What else did you think it was? Long Yunjan replied quickly. Yiqing Luo smiled without saying a word. One had to know that Long Yunjan was a cold person with a poker face. Nothing seemed to leave any trace in his heart. No matter what happened, he was calm and indifferent, as if he did not care much. But on the matter of Si Minghan, his attitude was completely different now. If he didn't have Tong Ziqing in his heart, even if she was beaten to death, she wouldn't believe it. But Long Yunjan, this little dragon, seemed to be too slow towards matters of the heart. Chapter 22:13. Love was, it wasn't appropriate for outsiders to interfere. To understand one's own heart, the most important thing was to face it squarely. Si Minghan kept an eye on Tong Ziqing's emotions. His gaze swept across Long Yunjan's body as he lowered his voice and asked with a smile, "Little beauty, do you like him?" Tong Ziqing's eyes flashed, and she lowered her head, ignoring Si Minghan. Si Minghan laughed to himself. "Little beauty, didn't he just deny that you're his woman? That means he doesn't feel that way about you. Why don't you be with me?" He raised his brows, and struck a pose that he thought was extraordinarily handsome. He smiled brightly at her. "In terms of looks, I don't lose to him. In terms of strength, I think I'm stronger than him." Also, I'm a student of the class of gods, and I can help you with your cultivation. Even if you want to stay in the class of gods, I have that ability. Tong Ziqing stopped in her tracks. Si Mingan's eyes lit up, and his smile grew even brighter. Little beauty, you're a smart man. You should know who you choose to be truly happy with. Si Minghan reached out to grab Tong Ziqing's shoulder. Before he could get close, his arm went numb. Tong Ziqing's palm landed on his arm. The woman's expression was cold, and her eyes were cold, without a hint of emotion. Si Minghan, do you understand me? Is it my face that you like, or are you trying to trick me? Si Minghan hugged his numb arm. Tong Ziqing's palm wasn't vicious, but the numbing feeling was unbearable. He lifted his eyes and looked at Tong Ziqing's face. The mischievous smile on his face was replaced by a serious expression. I really don't understand you, but I'm interested in you, not because of your face, nor do I want to tease you. He paused, then continued. I've said it before, I fell in love with you at first sight, not for any other reason, but because I felt my heart move the moment I laid eyes on you. First sight, feeling my heart move. These two sentences echoed in Tong Ziqing's mind. Yes. She had also decided that Long Yunjian was the man she wanted to follow the moment she laid eyes on him. She didn't doubt that Si Mingan's feelings were fake. She could even sympathize with him. But her eyelashes fluttered and her eyes were cold. She looked at Si Minghan indifferently. But Si Minghan, if you really fell in love with me at first sight, you wouldn't have said those words to me. In Si Mingan's heart, she was the kind of woman who would sell herself to another man just because Si Minghan was stronger than Long Yunjian in every aspect. She was the kind of woman who would sell herself to another man just to raise her profound level, or stay in the class of gods. Then his love for her was really cheap. Si Minghan froze. That's not what I meant. Whether you mean that or not, please don't bother me anymore. Tong Ziqing coldly glanced at him. Si Minghan pursed his lips and opened his mouth to say something. But when he looked at the faintly discernible hall in front of him, he suppressed the restlessness in his heart and said in a low voice, Little beauty, I will use my actions to prove that I am serious about you. After saying that, he suddenly quickened his pace and headed straight for the direction of the academy. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared. The few students from Devil class looked at the direction where Si Minghan disappeared in astonishment. What were they talking about? Chapter 22:14. We're already at the classroom. Curb your curiosity and show your best state. Yiqing Luo looked at the direction where Si Minghan left and her eyes sunk slightly. From Si Minghan, we should be able to tell that the status of the class of gods in the Heavenly Academy is beyond our imagination. Moreover, the teachers of the class of gods are also from the upper realm. Towards ordinary students like us, they will definitely not give us any face. What we need to do is to learn how to improve ourselves in the class of gods, so that we can become stronger. If there's any unhappiness, bear with it as long as you can. Of course, there's a limit to this tolerance. Once it exceeds that limit, needless to say, I'll do it myself. I still have the same old saying, we don't create trouble, but we're not afraid of trouble either. After Yiqing Luo finished her last sentence, her charming eyes swept across the few of them in the devil class. The few of them immediately nodded solemnly. We understand. Yiqing Luo led the few of them towards the classroom. Long Yunjian was still in a trance. When Yiqing Luo and the rest had already walked more than 10 steps, he then reacted and quickly caught up with Yiqing Luo's footsteps. Yiqing Luo gave him a meaningful look, as she gave an ambiguous smile. In Long Yunjian's heart, an inexplicable feeling of guilt welled up. Walking to the classroom entrance, Yiqing Luo's gaze immediately surveyed the surroundings. The classroom was extremely spacious. Inside, there were neat and tidy white wooden study desks. Books were stacked on top of each study desk. More than 10 students dressed in white were leisurely sitting in the classroom, seemingly discussing something. A white-haired and white-browed elder stood at the desk where the headmaster was teaching. In front of him was Si Minghan. No one knew what topic the both of them were discussing. The elderly man's expression was rather grave. When Yiqing Luo and the rest stood at the entrance, the students in the class of gods immediately sensed their presence. At that moment, The entire hall fell into silence. All the students in the class of gods shifted their gazes towards the classroom entrance. The 11 young men and women stood at the classroom entrance, all dressed in blazing red class uniforms, like billowing flames and auspicious clouds, making one unable to take their eyes off of them. And the most eye-catching was the young lady at the front. Her red robe was like fire, without any other adornments. Her black hair was like a waterfall, tied into a simple bun, held in place by a wooden hairpin. Her loose black hair fluttered in the wind. She had a face that could topple cities, a bright smile, and an otherworldly temperament. She was the most dazzling existence among the 11 of them. A look of awe flashed across the eyes of the 10 or so class of God students. The old man also turned his gaze over. He was also slightly startled. The old man had naturally heard of the matter of the 11 devil class students going to the class of gods for special training in the Heavenly Academy. However, he didn't expect it. These 11 devil class students actually had such a terrifying aura. These children were only 15 or 16 years old. How could he have such a powerful aura? Very quickly, the elderly retracted his gaze, and with a deep meaning in his old eyes, he opened his mouth in a dignified manner. A student of the devil class, right? Come in. Yiqing Luo took the lead to walk in as she curled her lips towards the elderly man and spoke respectfully and politely. This must be the teacher in class of gods. Teacher Yu? Every time my master, the ghost doctor, mentions you, he would sigh that he has no fate to compete with you. Chapter 22:15. Yiqing Luo nodded with a smile. Yes, my master is Ghost Doctor. Teacher Yi's gaze towards Yiqing Luo had some changes. In Yiqing Luo's mind, the words which Ghost Doctor had said to her were reversed once again. My master also said, in this heavenly academy, the only one who could make him admire is you, Teacher Yi. Before coming to the class of gods, Ghost Doctor and Old Man Gue, you had specially chatted with her privately about some matters regarding the class of gods. To prevent Yiqing Luo from being bullied in the class of gods. The two of them even specially told Yiqing Luo all the information they knew about the teachers in class of gods. Regarding EU and Teacher E. In actual fact, Ghost Doctor had viciously criticized Teacher E. But this insult, Yiqing Luo could feel it. The relationship between Ghost Doctor and Teacher E should be considered as not bad. That was why she had purposely dragged the Ghost Doctor out to show her face to Teacher E. At least in the coming month, at least on account of Ghost Doctor, Teacher E would more or less not be perfunctory about the devil class's special training. After all, these were the experts from the upper realm. Facing the special training of students who weren't their favorite, they would definitely not put it to heart. Yiqing Luo specially came to the class of gods. She wanted these brothers of hers to have a better chance of advancement, only by raising their own abilities. In future, she could head to the upper realm with a peace of mind. Good. Ghost Doctor's disciple. That old man actually took in a disciple. Teacher Yi's eyes shone brightly as he sized up Yiqing Luo. You are alchemist? What level are you at? Yiqing Luo smiled elegantly. My main focus is on raising my profound grade and my own ability. So my alchemist level is currently preparing to break through to a Grandmaster Alchemist. Grandmaster Alchemist? Just a junior alchemist, and Ghost Doctor took her in as a disciple? He was very clear about Ghost Doctor's character. Someone who was afraid of trouble. How could he possibly take in a Grandmaster Alchemist as a disciple? Could it be that this student had heard from somewhere that he and Ghost Doctor were old acquaintances? So, she intentionally mentioned Ghost Doctor, hoping that he would take care of her on account of Ghost Doctor's feelings? This thought caused Teacher E to frown deeply. It was no wonder that the people of the lower realm could only be inferior to others. At such a young age, he was already thinking of crooked ways. A trace of displeasure flashed across Teacher Yi's eyes as he casually waved his hand. All right, it doesn't matter if you're the Ghost Doctor's disciple or the Dean's disciple. In any case, you're now in the class of gods. Standing in the class of gods territory, you're just an ordinary student. He paused for a moment and then emphasized, a student who can only stay for a month. Devil classes students. Teacher Yi's attitude changed so quickly. Just a moment ago, he was still discussing about Ghost Doctor with Yiqing Luo, as though they were having a good time. In the next instant his expression changed. He even emphasized that they could only stay for a month. He made it sound like they were going to shamelessly stay in the class of gods and never leave. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. She noticed the changes in Teacher Yi's emotions. Just now, when Teacher Yi heard about the Ghost Doctor, his attitude became slightly better. But immediately after, it was filled with disgust. It was obvious that he wasn't venting his anger on them because he hated the Ghost Doctor. Teacher Yi might have misunderstood something. But Yiqing Luo had no intention to explain. To these proud and arrogant people, it was impossible for them to do anything. Chapter 22:16. What Teacher Yi said is right. Yiqing Luo smiled slightly. Teacher Yi frowned as he stared at the extremely beautiful face in front of him. There was a strange feeling surging in his heart. This young lady's looks were out of this world. Compared to the ladies he had seen in the upper realm, she was several times more beautiful. This kind of beauty wasn't just her outer appearance, but the kind of temperament that she exuded. A peerless temperament. No matter what he said, the young lady would always smile humbly and warmly, as though she totally didn't care what he said. She regarded him as the headmaster whom she respected, even though he knew that this young lady was opportunistic and did some unorthodox things to get his attention. But he still didn't hate this young lady. I guess this must be the female boss of Devil Class, student Yiqing Luo. Suddenly, a lady's sarcastic voice floated from below the counter. An extremely beautiful female student in white clothes stood up. The female student's temperament was outstanding, and her looks were outstanding, coupled with the self-confidence that she exuded. If she was in the academy, she would absolutely crush that Ziqianqian into dregs. Student Yiqing Luo is quite famous in the academy this year. Every corner of the academy is discussing about student Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo is so powerful, I really admire her. The female student scoffed lightly as her lips curled into a sneer. In the coming month, I hope I have the chance to have a good spar with student Yiqing Luo. Playing such a big game the moment she opened her mouth? But she liked it. Yiqing Luo looked at the female student with a warm smile. I also have the same intention. Devil Class's students have always admired the students from Class of God, and have long wanted to have a showdown with the students from Class of God. If there's this chance, our Devil Class will definitely be very happy. When she said that, not only that female student's expression changed, even the other 10 over students from Class of Gods had a change of expression. Devil Class students, weren't they too daring? They actually wanted to compete with them, just based on a bunch of trash like them? It was simply a waste of their time. This group of Devil Class students had obtained too much glory in Heavenly Academy, so they were so inflated that they couldn't extricate themselves? Yin Yu, Si Minghan, who was standing beside Teacher Yi, scolded the female student in a low voice. Don't bring the rumors from the outside into the Class of God and ruin the atmosphere here. A trace of resentment appeared on the pretty face of the female student named Yin Yu. Si Minghan, what right do you have to criticize me? Just for that bunch of trash? I'm telling you, don't meddle in this matter. You're a student of the Class of Gods, yet you're so overbearing towards students from other classes who came for special training. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that you were always paying attention to the students from other classes, worried that this student Yiqing Luo would surpass you. Si Minghan mocked with a hidden meaning. His words had clearly pierced Yin Yu's heart. Yin Yu's expression changed drastically. She slammed the table and flew toward Si Minghan. She raised her palm and attacked Si Minghan. Devil Class students. They started fighting just like that? The Devil Class students turned their heads in unison and looked at Teacher Yi. Heavenly Academy absolutely did not allow students to kill each other. Was it really alright for them to start fighting in front of Teacher Yi? Unexpectedly, Teacher Yi actually took a step back and gave up the battlefield to them. Chapter 22:17. What was going on? Could it be that in the Class of Gods, students were allowed to kill each other? Bam! A loud sound was heard as the table was split into pieces. Si Minghan lazily avoided Yen Yu's attack as he glanced at her disapprovingly. Don't waste your energy and time. I'm not interested in fighting with you. Yen Yu put on a humiliated look as she gritted her teeth and attacked again. Instantly, the classroom was filled with the sound of ping-pong fighting. The students in Class of Gods looked as though they were used to it. Devil Class's students stared at the two of them exchanging blows, memorizing the techniques and details of the two of them. As for Yiqing Luo, she was recalling the conversation between Si Minghan and Yen Yu. It seemed that the amount of information was a little too much. Yen Yu asked Si Minghan to mind less about this matter. This matter was obviously related to their devil class. Yen Yu wanted to deal with devil class? Why? Their class of devils seemed to mind their own business with the class of gods, right? Moreover, the class of gods had such a high status, they must be proud and arrogant. They would absolutely not cross paths with the devil class, which was known as Trash Class 1, right? Yiqing Luo was deep in thought. Teacher Yi, on the other hand, was sizing up the students of the devil class. Seeing them staring at the two who were still entangled with each other, their eyes gleaming. Somehow, this bunch of youngsters who looked extremely young and had no talent seemed to be learning the moves and techniques of the two who were entangled with each other. They shouldn't be able to understand such profound things? Just at this moment, suddenly a deep and furious roar was heard from outside the classroom. What are you bunch of rascals doing? Didn't Yun Duan, that old fogey, say that he would send the top class students to the class of gods today? Why are you still making a ruckus? Are you trying to let the outsiders see us as a joke? Following that, a bam sound was heard. The classroom's door was kicked open. A fat old man dressed in a loose white robe walked in while rubbing his fat tummy. The two who were entangled with each other immediately stood apart. The entire place was silent. Even Teacher Yi could not help but straighten his back. The chubby old man's gaze fell on the 11 people standing by the table. And the students from the class that won first place have already arrived. He raised his chubby palm and touched the back of his head. Since you're here, follow me to your place to rest. You'll officially begin your special training in the afternoon. The devil class students could tell. This chubby old man had an important position in the class of gods. They nodded and said, "Thank you, headmaster." The fat old man smiled, the fat on both sides of his face piling up. I'm the physical training master of the class of gods. They call me Fat Master or Fat Elder. You guys can call me that too. The devil class students looked at each other and said in unison, "Fatty teacher. Let's go. I'll take you to where you'll be staying for the next month. You are here for special training. You must seize every moment you have and not waste your time," the fat teacher said as he turned around and walked out of the classroom. Yiqing Luo bade farewell to Teacher Yi and led the devil class's students to follow them out. The fat teacher looked very approachable, and his tone was very down to earth. There was no trace of the upper realm's aloofness. Chapter 22:18. Yiqing Luo had the same feeling in her heart. This fatty master was definitely not as approachable as he appeared to be now. It was very clear from the attitude of the students in the class of gods towards fatty master. The 11 of them remained silent. Even Yiqing Luo didn't speak a word. Only the fat teacher explained the rules of the class of gods in a concise and comprehensive manner. He didn't care if these students in devil class listened to him or not, nor did he care if the students in devil class would respond to him. As long as he did his job well, that was enough. When they returned to the forked entrance, the fat teacher stopped in his tracks and asked calmly, "Before you came, some students had already pointed out the places that these paths lead to, right?" The students in devil class were stunned as they nodded in puzzlement. Fatty Master moved his body away. "Which road is the direction to the dormitory?" The students in devil class understood that this was a test of their memory. Enai Ruopan pointed to a small path. "This is the road that leads to the dormitory." Fatty Master's gaze paused on Enai Ruopan for a moment before he nodded. But no expression could be seen on that fat face of his. The other students in devil class felt their hearts tighten slightly. The fat master squinted his eyes and said, "So, have you memorized the other paths?" The students in devil class looked at each other in dismay. After receiving Yi Qing Luo's gaze, the few students began to point one by one towards a road. This is the direction to the physical fitness training ground. This is the direction to the endurance training ground. This is one sentence at a time. Without any mistakes, all the roads were pointed out. The fats on Fatty Master's face jiggled, as if he didn't expect these students to be able to remember all the complicated passages here clearly. One must know that in the past years, they were all elite students who were selected from the high profound class. These students, every time they entered the class of gods, it was as if they had entered some strange place. Towards anyone, they would be fawning. Towards anything, they would be shocked and curious. Totally not a single bit, as though they were here for special training. Every time he asked those students, where did these small paths lead to? Those students would all be at a loss. This was the first batch of people who were able to accurately memorize these routes. It seemed that other than the high profound class, there were other elite students in the Heavenly Academy. The fat teacher did not speak again. He stroked his plump chin, lifted his leg, and walked to a remote path on the far right. That seems to be the path to the combat training forest. Fat teacher, are we going to the dormitory? Before the devil class students could even say the word ma. The fat teacher had already walked on that path, and had no intention of turning back. Devil class's students looked at each other. Was the fatty teacher satisfied or dissatisfied that they could remember these paths? If they were afraid that they, the non-God students, would be dissatisfied with the class of God's route after memorizing it, there was nothing they could do. Under Yi Qing Luo's training, they had long formed the habit of memorizing the surrounding topography no matter where they went. They remembered every single one of these forked paths clearly. He couldn't forget it even if he wanted to. Let's go. Yi Qing Luo didn't understand the fat teacher's meaning, but she knew clearly that choosing these small paths and identifying the direction which the small paths led to were just a small test. From the moment they entered the class of gods. Chapter 22:19. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, the devil class's students no longer hesitated as they followed behind Fatty. This was the path to the actual combat training forest. As they walked, the surrounding trees became more and more luxuriant. After walking for about the time it took to burn a stick of incense, the surroundings were already densely packed, extremely luxuriant towering trees. As far as the eye could see, branches were connected to branches, leaves were connected to leaves. Tiny sparks of light shone through the gaps between the tiny leaves. The ground was covered with fragmented light. Following behind the fat teacher, they turned left and right for a while in the lush forest. Fatty's footsteps stopped on an empty patch of grass. This was probably the only place in the entire forest that was not covered with trees. It was about the size of a training ground. There were remnants of ashes around, and a piece of cleared space in the middle. There were also leftover wood which should be traces of a campsite. Apparently, this was a place where the students from the class of God would occasionally stay. And the time they stayed was not short. What was Fatty trying to do by bringing them here? This will be the place where you will be staying for the next month. Fatty pointed to the empty patch of grass and said calmly, "Stay here." Yin Xiaoyi frowned. Fatty nodded as his eyes shone brightly. "You are here for special training, not to have fun. This is also a part of the special training. Don't tell me. You can't take this hardship, right?" Yin Xiaoyi frowned. "This is not a matter of whether we can take the hardship or not. It's not impossible for you to let us stay here, but you can't not give us anything, right? If it was outside or on the battlefield, do you think the enemy will prepare what you want for you?" Fatty narrowed his eyes and replied calmly. "You." Yin Xiaoyi had no words to refute. "Xiaoyi." Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and stopped Yin Xiaoyi. She slowly walked up and looked at Fatty Master calmly. "We understand, we will stay here. Thank you, Fatty Master, for your trouble." A greasy smile appeared on the Fat Master's oily face. His narrow eyes carefully sized up the female student in front of him. From the first sight of this young lady, he could feel that she was different. It could also be seen that this young lady was the backbone of the students in Devil class. He had heard of this group of students before. It was once a famous class of trash, and each of the students had suffered a lot of oppression and humiliation, causing their personalities to become abnormally twisted. To be able to make that group of problematic students submit to a young girl. This really made people want to find out what method this young lady used to subdue the devil class. Then have a good rest. Afternoon, you will train together with the students from the class of God. Fatty Master withdrew his scrutinizing gaze from Yiqing Luo. Although you are students of the class of devils, you are after all elite students who have fought your way up through several rounds of competition. Even if you train with the students of the class of gods, you don't need to feel too much pressure. Just maintain a normal state of mind. The devil class students did not feel any pressure as they responded in unison. The fat teacher glanced at the students one by one. Remember to report to the fitness training ground after noon. After saying this, the fat teacher turned around and left. Without waiting for the devil class students to stop him, Fatty Teacher's figure had already disappeared into the dense forest. Chapter 22:20. This is also a part of the special training. Everyone stop talking and start to build the place that we will be sleeping in for the next month. Yiqing Luo looked around. Alright, it's not our first time camping outside, using the sky as our cover and the ground as our hut. There's still 4 hours before noon. Let's make use of the time to set up camp. Devil classes students were wailing incessantly, but their actions were starting to set up camp in an orderly manner for the place that they were going to sleep at. They should be thankful that, ever since they followed Yiqing Luo to complete the mission in the Magic Beast Forest, they had developed a habit of bringing along a space pocket specially prepared for camping. From the pocket, they took out the tents, bedding and some simple daily necessities. Then they divided the work. One by one, the tents started to be set up. A few masters who were far away in classroom run were currently gathered in front of a stone which was about the size of a table. Above that stone was impressively the scene where Yiqing Luo and the rest were training in the forest. Fatty Master touched the 2 pieces of fat on his face as he smacked his lips. Originally I wanted to make things difficult for this bunch of students, but I didn't expect that. They were already prepared. Ha ha ha. Only this bunch of students would bring along camping equipment with them. Another master who was leaning lazily against the wall. Master Shinqing gave a sloppy laugh. To tell the truth, since the establishment of the class of gods, they had never seen any foreign students who were able to spend a month in the class of gods safely. This class called the devil class was really interesting. In their imagination, this bunch of students should be asking them for help soon. But they had not expected that they actually brought along their own camping equipment. And looking at their actions of setting up camp, searching for firewood, starting a fire, etc., they were so familiar with it that they looked like wanderers who were out all year round. This year's special training, I feel that it's much more interesting. Master Yi stroked his beard, although he didn't like Yiqing Luo's character, but towards her and the rest's unperturbed attitude, he admired it very much. The few of them pointed at the stone and discussed. They sighed inwardly at the familiarity of these students towards camping. At this moment, a gentle voice suddenly sounded from behind him. What? You bunch of teachers with your eyes growing on top of your heads are actually interested in the students of the devil class who are known as the trash class 1? A few of the masters turned around and saw a lady in her 30s walking gracefully towards them with graceful steps. When the teachers saw the girl, they moved away. The students in this class are indeed not ordinary. Come over and take a look. I guarantee that you will be attracted by this group of students. The woman snorted and stepped forward disapprovingly. Coincidentally, the image of Yiqing Luo pointing to a tent appeared on the stone, talking to a student about something. The lady's vision was fixed on Yiqing Luo's face. Her expression suddenly froze. By May, do you know this female student? Teacher Yi noticed the change in the girl's expression and asked casually. The girl pursed her red lips, curled her fingers and shook her head. I don't know her, but this female student is too beautiful. It makes me doubt her ability. We have a lot of time to verify her ability. If it's a bunch of mud that can't even hold up the wall, then we don't need to waste time. Master Shenqing shrugged his shoulders, disapproving. Chapter 22-21. The three of them looked at Bai Mei's hurried back as a trace of suspicion flashed past their eyes. Earlier, when Bai Mei saw one of the devil class's students' face, she obviously revealed a strange expression. Bai Mei knew that student called Yi Qing Luo, but why would she deny it? Forget it, a woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. We are all men, we can't guess a woman's thoughts. Teacher Shenqing stretched lazily and couldn't be bothered to think further. Teacher Yi stroked his white beard. Ever since those two came to the class of gods, Bai Mei's thoughts were all on them. She should be in a hurry to meet them. At the mention of those two, the faces of the other two teachers turned ugly. Practice makes perfect. These 4 words perfectly explained how Yi Qing Luo and the others managed to settle all the camping matters in less than 2 hours. Looking at the 11 tents in front of them, the devil class students wiped their sweat. If we can't survive in the future, we can still help others to set up tents to make a living. Useless. The devil class students rolled their eyes. The few students started to laugh and joke around. Yi Qing Luo stood under a big tree and drank the water from the water bag. She made use of this period of time to get a general understanding of the environment here. This place was similar to the Heavenly Academy's Heavenly Training Forest. But compared to the one in the Heavenly Academy, this place was even more torturous. This grassland should be specially made by the few teachers in the class of gods to train the students, to provide a place for the students to rest. The surroundings of this grassland were also set up with enchantments. If one didn't sense it carefully, one wouldn't be able to detect it. Setting up camp on this grassland, there was no need to worry about being attacked by the magical beasts. But out of this grassland, for example, they were on the way to other places in the class of gods. That might not be the case. The magical beasts here were at least intermediate and advanced level magical beasts. If they met, although it wouldn't affect them much, but it would be too troublesome. Yi Qing Luo expressed that her Qi and her Qi Yen were not awake yet. Otherwise they could use the sacred beast's power to suppress those magical beasts, which would save them a lot of trouble. Everyone take a break. We have special training with the students in the class of gods in the afternoon. The intensity of the special training here should be more tiring than in the lower realm. So seize the time to rest and face the challenge in the afternoon. From the fatty teacher's attitude, she could roughly guess. The afternoon would not be so relaxing. At the other end of the classroom, the 3 masters couldn't hear anything. They could only read Yi Qing Luo's lips and knew what she was saying. Teacher Yi stroked his white beard and said, "This young lady has good leadership skills at such a young age. If she is properly nurtured, she will definitely become someone great in the future." The other 2 headmasters did not respond. After that, their pupils constricted. The red-clothed girl in the stone spoke again, word by word. "You'll be training with the class of God students in the afternoon. Since you're new here, don't even think about showing off. In any case, he's a student taught by a powerhouse from the upper realm. We should at least save him some face." Teacher Yi's eyes widened. Did he see wrongly? Teacher Shenqing squinted his lazy eyes and stared intently at the girl with a serious face inside the stone. The fat teacher, on the other hand, held the fat on both sides of his cheeks. His eyes, which were like slits, did not reveal any extra emotions. This girl. Where did she get her confidence from? She actually said, "Leave some face for the students in the class of gods." Chapter 22-22. It was almost noon. The devil class's students didn't expect the class of gods to prepare lunch for them. The 11 of them huddled together and took out their rations and water bags from their space pockets to replenish their energy. After they finished eating, Yi Qing Luo calculated the time. There was about half an hour left, which was 30 minutes. She wiped her hands and stood up. "Let's walk to the physical fitness training ground to digest the food." The 10 devil class students immediately stood up. By the time the 11 of them arrived at the physical fitness training ground, it was not noon yet. There were 15 students dressed in white standing at the training ground. 3 masters stood at the outer perimeter of the training ground. When they saw Yi Qing Luo and the rest rushing over before the time limit, their faces revealed a look of astonishment. It was especially so for the fatty teacher. His tiny eyes were like slits, but one could see the surprise in the depths of his sparkling eyes. He had personally brought the devil class's students to the actual combat training forest. He was the clearest about the terrain there, because these students had clearly remembered the directions of the few small paths in the class of gods. He had purposely brought along a winding path in the actual combat training forest. He didn't specifically say that he wouldn't be picking them up for the afternoon training. He just wanted to test if the devil class's students' memory was really heaven-defying to be able to remember all the terrain. Fatty Master was sure. Even if the students from the class of gods were here, they might not be able to remember the exit of the forest clearly. But the devil class's students did it. Moreover, he did it without any difficulty at all. Sorry to have kept you waiting. Yi Qing Luo saw quite a number of people standing at the training ground the moment she arrived, and immediately led the students forward. Fatty Master's fats trembled. No problem, you all arrived within the stipulated time. Yi Qing Luo smiled modestly. Master Shenqing lifted his eyelids lazily. Speaking of which, little fellows, have you had your lunch? Fatty old man's special training is very brutal. If you haven't had your lunch, you might die of exhaustion on the training ground. My special training is brutal? What nonsense are you talking about? Fat Master stared fiercely at teacher Shenqing before shifting his vision onto Yi Qing Luo and the rest. But what that old man said is right. If you haven't had your lunch, you should hurry up and eat now. The special training in the afternoon is more physical, and if you haven't completed the mission, you are not allowed to leave the training ground and you are not allowed to eat. Do you hear me? Yi Qing Luo continued to smile modestly. We have already eaten our rations. Thank you for your concern. We understand the rules of the special training, and we have no objections. The way the three masters looked at the devil class was getting weirder and weirder. This foreign class of students was really different from the previous years. Such a student. Why would he be in the devil class with the reputation of trash class 1? Since everyone is here, let's start the special training now. Students, stand properly. The fat teacher looked at the few of them and suddenly shouted. Then he raised his hand and pointed towards the direction of the devil class students. All of you, stand over there. He then pointed to where the students of the class of gods were standing. The devil class's students walked over. Before they got close, they heard Yin Yu's sarcastic voice. Stay away from us, a bunch of trash. Don't drag down our class of gods. The devil class's students stopped in their tracks. Tong Ziqing raised her beautiful eyes and her icy cold gaze swept past Yin Yu's face. Chapter 22-23. Yin Yu was pierced by her gaze and her beautiful face twisted into a hideous expression. You useless thing. How dare you look at me like that? Believe it or not, I will dig your eyes out. Tong Ziqing's lips curled into a smile which didn't look like a smile as she sneered. The quality of the students in the class of gods really makes me look at you differently. What did you say? The students behind Yin Yu bellowed angrily. Tong Ziqing's red lips twitched in disdain as she said word by word. It seems that not only the quality of the students in the class of gods is worrisome, their brains aren't that good either. Trash from the devil class. You. Tong Ziqing's words made the students in the class of gods fly into a rage. In the eyes of the students in the class of gods, this bunch of students from the devil class were just a bunch of lowly ants, a bunch of useless things. They couldn't be bothered to have any friction with these ants and useless things. This bunch of useless things weren't worthy of their attention. But Tong Ziqing's words were obviously looking down on the class of gods. They, the dignified students of the class of gods, were actually humiliated by a piece of trash? But just as Yin Yu and a few familiar students were about to teach the devil class a lesson, Teacher Yi bellowed in a deep voice. Enough! What are you all doing? This bellow made the students in the class of gods restrain their temper unwillingly. They stared at the devil class students with hatred before retracting their gaze and lowered their heads, obediently not daring to say another word. Teacher Yi frowned as he swept his gaze across the students in the class of gods. Following that, his gaze fell onto Tong Ziqing. This student, you came to the class of gods to undergo special training. If you don't have the heart to undergo special training, my class of gods will not be able to accommodate you. Teacher. Si Minghan stood out from the class of gods student area and called out in a low voice. But he was stared back by Teacher Yi's fierce glare. Tong Ziqing remained expressionless, as though she wasn't affected at all by Teacher Yi's words. This nonchalant look made Teacher Yi feel a surge of anger. Just as he was about to open his mouth, he saw Yiqing Luo walking slowly towards Tong Ziqing. The corners of her lips curled up and she smiled calmly. Teacher Yi, what Ziqing said actually makes sense. Teacher Yi's face darkened. Yiqing Luo didn't seem to have noticed, or perhaps she had noticed, but she didn't care much and continued. Class of God students are the brightest glory of the Heavenly Academy, representing the existence of the entire Heavenly Academy. As a representative student of the Heavenly Academy, she had such a low quality and was always arrogant. It's fine within the Academy, but if this gets out, wouldn't we become a laughingstock? Students from the class of gods are spoiled and arrogant? Yiqing Luo's voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. He spat out each word slowly and steadily. The words that entered his ears couldn't be any clearer. Teacher Yi opened his mouth, but found himself unable to refute Yiqing Luo's words. It was a fact that Yanyu was the first to provoke the devil class students. Indeed, it was Yanyu who was too arrogant. The class of gods was in the wrong here. There's one more thing. Yiqing Luo's smile grew brighter and brighter. Her charming eyes glowed brilliantly and flowed with light, causing her charming and drop-dead gorgeous face to seem like a blooming rose. And she emitted an unparalleled charm that captivated the soul. She stared unblinkingly at the students from the class of gods. She was obviously so charming and alluring. But the students from the class of gods could sense the contempt and ridicule from Yiqing Luo's smile. Chapter 22-24. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she slowly opened her mouth. From what I see, the students in the class of gods have occupied the school's abundant resources, which resulted in your current ability. I wonder, where did you get your sense of superiority from? Feeling that you're a cut above the rest? She paused for a moment and dragged the last syllable as she ridiculed coldly. Oh? Is it from the fact that you have many times more abundant resources than the other students, that you find a sense of superiority? You. Yanyu stared at Yiqing Luo as her petite body trembled in anger. Yiqing Luo smiled brilliantly. Don't be in a hurry to fly into a rage out of humiliation. This student, as a member of the devil class, I have to be very serious and solemn to tell you something. Just like what Teacher Yi said, our devil class came to the class of gods for a month of special training. As outsiders, we are not so silly as to have any conflict with the students of the class of gods when we just arrived. I think there shouldn't be anything in our devil class that is worth a student of the class of gods like you to waste your time to ridicule and humiliate us, right? Of course, even if you have this time, it doesn't mean that the other students have this time, nor does it mean that our devil class has this time. I sincerely hope that this student, you can stand on the reputation of the class of gods and stop wasting everyone's time, alright? Yiqing Luo's voice was sweet and her tone was calm, with a gentle and courteous smile. Yanyu was so angry that her pretty face twisted. You lowly trash. How dare you humiliate me? I want. Yanyu. Teacher Yi's face was steely green as he berated her. Did Yanyu feel that she had not embarrassed herself enough? Although Yiqing Luo's words were too targeted, but every word and sentence she said was irrefutable. They were the students of the class of gods. They were the high and mighty class of gods. Did they need to waste their training time to humiliate a foreign class? This was not only a waste of everyone's time. It was also a disgrace to the class of gods. Yanyu's face turned ashen when she was berated by Teacher Yi. She pursed her lips in grievance and lowered her head, not daring to say another word. The entire training ground fell into a dead silence. After Teacher Yi finished his roar, he turned his gaze towards Yiqing Luo. In his mind he was still thinking about how to reprimand Yiqing Luo. But he saw Yiqing Luo's slender brows slightly raised, her clear and charming eyes. Her face was like a bottomless cold lake, suffused with traces of chilliness. She smiled sweetly and said, "Teacher E, since that student knows his mistake, we the devil class are not narrow-minded people. Let's forget about today's provocation. Don't waste everyone's special training time." Yi Qingluo. Yanyu was so infuriated that his entire body was trembling. That bitch. What right did that little slut have to say that he would forgive her? He even flattered himself? Not a petty person? In other words, were the class of gods petty people? Teacher Yi was also rendered speechless by Yi Qingluo's words. Seeing this, the other two teachers cleared their throats. Yes, yes, yes. Don't delay the special training. Put aside any personal matters. It's time for the special training now. Chapter 22-25. That was to say, no matter how much the devil class's students could withstand, they would undergo special training according to the physical qualities of the students in the class of gods. On this point, the high profound class 2 students who had come to the class of gods for special training also followed the same method. Of course, those students of high profound class 2 were carried out of the special training every day. In the eyes of the devil class students, a bright ray of light shot out. They were eager to try and smiled. All right, teachers, please try your best to train us. The students in the class of gods were infuriated by Yi Qingluo's words. Hearing the devil class's students reply, their lips twitched in disdain. Now they agreed to it. Later on they would have a good time. A bunch of waste. How dare they try to compare with the class of gods? Just as both parties were in formation, and Ruopan suddenly thought of something as she weakly raised her arm and looked at Teacher E in embarrassment. That's right, teacher, I have a question. Speak. Teacher E spat out one word expressionlessly. We will be staying in the training forest for the next month. Then after the special training, where should we go? To clean ourselves up? And Ruopan expressed that this question was very important to a lady. Teacher Yi's face sunk slightly. They hadn't even started the special training, and they were already thinking about how to clean themselves up after the training? If they were so fond of looking pretty, then why did they join the special training? Seeing Teacher Yi's displeased expression, Yi Qingluo pulled Ruopan over and whispered. Elder Yun Duan said that after the special training mission is over, we can return to the devil class. Although her voice was low, but Yanyu, who was standing on the other side of the class of gods, heard it clearly. Immediately, he couldn't hold it in as he sneered. The special training mission is over? Do you think the class of gods is the same as your waste class's training method? Not only Yanyu, the other students in the class of gods also looked at the devil class with ridicule. Even Teacher E sneered. Yanyu glanced at Yi Qingluo in disdain. You're right about one thing. Class of gods is a cut above the rest. We are the most elite students in the academy. Not only do we have more resources than you, the training we have received has also far surpassed yours. The special training of our class of gods is not that easy to complete. To be honest, even the students in our class might not be able to complete the special training tasks given by the teachers on time. Another student from the class of gods said, pretending to be kind. Previously, the elite students of High Profound Class 2 were all carried down from this training ground. For your devil class to be able to get first place this year, it was all because of luck. Do you really think that just because you got first place, you're invincible? As students of the class of gods, I would like to give you a piece of advice. There is always someone better out there, so don't be too arrogant. Ha 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 ha. The students of the class of gods were full of disdain. Although the students of the class of gods couldn't be bothered to waste their breath on these useless people. But thinking of what Yi Qingluo said earlier, it was indeed a slap on the class of gods' face. Hearing Yi Qingluo mention that the special training mission had ended, and she still had to return to devil class, they could not help but laugh. Even for them, they might not even have the strength to move after completing the special training tasks set by the teachers. This bunch of useless people actually fantasized that they could complete the special training mission. The students of High Profound Class 2 were carried down from the training ground, but it doesn't mean that we will be carried down. Chapter 22-26. Class of God students looked at Yiqing Luo in disdain. At this point in time, she still wanted to be stubborn? Following that, Yiqing Luo's next sentence made their faces turn green. You may not complete the mission on time, but it doesn't mean that we can't. Yiqing Luo smiled faintly. Outstanding temperament, peerlessly beautiful appearance. Plus the confidence when she said this. It was inexplicable, which made them believe that she would definitely be able to complete these special training missions. Yanyu was the first to recover from Yiqing Luo's aura. Her face was filled with emotions. Yiqing Luo, I know you are very arrogant in the academy, but this is the class of God. Please restrain your arrogance. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and gave Yanyu a meaningful look. From the moment Yanyu called out her name, she had been suspicious. How did this Yanyu student from the class of gods know her name? Moreover, he had a deep hatred for her. Now hearing Yanyu talk about her in the academy, Yiqing Luo roughly understood. Yanyu should have left the class of God and heard about her. But class of God students had always felt that they were on top, a cut above others. In their eyes, students from other classes in the Heavenly Academy were lowly ants. Because of this, students from the class of God disdained to leave the class. As for the matters in the Heavenly Academy, they rarely went to understand. Only Ziqianqian, who liked to be in the limelight and enjoyed the feeling of being surrounded by the stars, would make use of his identity as a student of the class of God to flaunt his prowess in the Heavenly Academy. Thinking of Ziqianqian, Yiqing Luo's gaze towards Yanyu flickered slightly. This Yanyu knew her and specially inquired about her matters in the academy. Could it be because of Ziqianqian? Otherwise, why was he targeting her from the start? Si Minghan suddenly took small steps over. He took a look at the silent Tong Ziqing and lowered his voice to Yiqing Luo. Student, on account of the little beauty, let me remind you that in the class of God, the masters love to train arrogant and disobedient people. So no matter how well you do in the Heavenly Academy, this is after all the class of God. Although his words were directed at Yiqing Luo, however, his eyes were fixed on Tong Ziqing and did not move away. The reason why he reminded them was not because he cared about the consequences of the devil class. He was only worried. The arrogance of the devil class would only harm the little beauty. Yiqing Luo smiled without saying a word. Back then, every student who entered the class of gods was extremely arrogant. In their eyes, they were favored by the heavens and possessed innate talent that surpassed ordinary people. That's why they were arrogant and prideful. However, after the training, whether it is their temperament or self-esteem, they will be completely eroded by the training. The fat teacher, who had been silent all this while, broke into a smile. The two chubby chunks of meat swayed back and forth. I'm very curious, after a month, how much of your arrogance has remained? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her long and narrow eyes sparkled with brilliant luster. For some reason, her body emitted a chilling aura, as if it could freeze everything in the surroundings into frost. She smiled sweetly and charmingly, as if she was in a dream. We shall wait and see. The scene was once again silent. The gazes of the three masters all fell on the students of the devil class. Those students from the class of God were also stunned by the aura released by Yiqing Luo. Wasn't this devil class student a little too arrogant? Chapter 22-27. Was it the arrogance of overconfidence? Or was it the arrogance of ability? All the answers would be revealed in the special training. The special training to raise one's ability was still the same. No matter if it was to raise the profound grade, or the profound heart jade grade, or whatever. The core of the special training was still the foundation. Hence, under the nonsense of the devil class, Fatty Teacher's first order was to carry a heavy load and run 50 kilometers. This made the students in class of God's expressions turn ugly. Usually, their training program was only 30 kilometers of cross-country with weights. Now there was an additional 20 kilometers for no reason. Apparently it was because of devil class's challenge which caused everyone to suffer. The students in class of God had grievances in their hearts, but they didn't dare to show it. Nor could they complain about being tired. This was a matter of pride for the class of God. But when they looked towards devil class's side, the 11 of them sat calmly as they warmed up. They didn't panic at all because of the number 50 kilometers. As though they were not running 50 kilometers, but 5 kilometers. The students of the class of gods were instantly stimulated. Could this bunch of devil classes students be so useless that they didn't even know how far 50 kilometers was? Did they know what 50 kilometers meant? And it was carrying weights. A pile of gravity belts was thrown in front of them. Fatty teacher stared at devil classes students without blinking. Each gravity belt is 20 kilograms. Today is devil classes' first time participating in the special training. Just tie one for each of your hands and legs. 20 kilograms for one for each of the 4 limbs. That was 80 kilograms, which was equivalent to 160 caddies. To the students of the devil class, these were nothing much. After all, when they were training in Yiqing Luo's hands, he had gone through special training that was even more difficult than this. Towards Fatty teacher's request, they naturally didn't panic. Hell, let them try to be brave. Yenyu snorted in disdain as she speedily tied the gravity belts and walked to the side of the training ground, queuing up for Fatty teacher's orders. After Si Minghan tied the gravity belts, he walked to Tong Ziqing. Little beauty, if you can't run anymore, come look for me, I can carry you. As he spoke, he even raised his eyebrows at Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing's face was cold. She glanced at him, and then lowered her head to concentrate on tying the gravity belt. She didn't even have the mood to answer him. Si Minghan was not discouraged. Instead, he smiled brightly and squatted down. I mean it. A 50-kilometer race is not good for a woman's body. Even if you can last until the end, I can't bear to let you finish the race. I will wait for you at the front. Tong Ziqing still didn't pay attention to him. Her face remained cold. Jean, that lad seems to really care about our Ziqing. Yiqing Luo intentionally poked Long Yunzhan's shoulder, indicating him to look towards Tong Ziqing's direction. She didn't suspect that Si Minghan had a motive for getting close to Tong Ziqing. It could be seen that Si Minghan's feelings for Tong Ziqing were sincere. In front of others, he looked lazy and sloppy, but in front of Tong Ziqing, he was serious. Love at first sight. What boundless youth. Long Yunzhan merely shot a glance at Tong Ziqing's direction and turned his head over, looking at the gravity belt tied around Yiqing Luo's wrist. Chapter 22-28. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Follow her? Are you sure? Long Yunzhan replied indifferently. Otherwise? Otherwise. Alright, if Tong Ziqing really liked Si Minghan, then he could only follow Tong Ziqing. But what was Long Yunzhan trying to do with his indifferent attitude? Didn't he seem to care a lot about Tong Ziqing in the morning? Yiqing Luo didn't have time to ponder over this question. Fatty Master had already given the order for them to head towards the actual combat training forest, go around the forest and start the load running. After 2 rounds of the actual combat training forest, it was exactly 50 kilometers. Class of God students didn't want to lose their high and mighty face in front of the waste class, so naturally they were the first to bear the brunt and rushed to the front. The devil class students didn't intentionally chase after them, but followed behind Yiqing Luo and started jogging. After the students had run far away, Master Shinqing, who had been resting with his eyes closed lazily, opened his eyelids. The devil class students look as if 50 kilometers is nothing to them. The 2 masters remained silent for a while. Indeed, they could clearly feel it. After they said the figure of 50 kilometers, the class of God students all drew in a breath of cold air. The devil class students were so calm that it was as if they were 5 kilometers. Fatty Master expressed a sense of defeat. That young lady called Yiqing Luo is very eye-catching. Fatty Master touched his chin. If she can really complete the first load training, I will observe her carefully for the rest of the time. Interested in her? Master Shinqing raised his brows. But I'm afraid you won't enter her eyes. Before Fatty Master opened his mouth, Master Yi had already snorted coldly. That young lady called Yiqing Luo has been racking her brains to build a relationship with our class of gods. If she knew that fat old man has taken a liking to her, how could she not agree? TSK oldie. Why do I hear a hint of jealousy in your tone? Are you jealous? Master Shinqing teased as he got closer to Master Yi. Master Yi was annoyed. How could I be jealous of that young lady? Her character is not good. No matter how strong she is, I won't take a liking to her. I didn't say it was student Yi Qing Luo. Master Shinqing smiled slyly at him. Enough. The fat master impatiently stopped the two from bickering. Oldie, what did you just say? Yi Qing Luo, that young lady racked her brains to enter the class of gods? What do you mean by moral integrity? He indeed had a huge interest in Yi Qing Luo. This was the most imposing woman he had ever seen in the lower realms. Her confidence and her flamboyance made people involuntarily submit to her. If he was properly nurtured, in time to come, even if he went to the upper realm, he would definitely be a well-known figure. Teacher Yi's face was cold as he repeated what Yi Qing Luo had said to him during their first meeting. He continued, "We all know the ghost doctor's temper. He's always been afraid of trouble. How could he accept a medicine master who hasn't even reached the level of a grandmaster apothecary?" The ghost doctor's disciple? Teacher Shenqing and Fat Teacher's expressions changed slightly. What's the matter? Teacher Yi was puzzled. I heard that the ghost doctor had indeed accepted a disciple in the academy, and that old man Guiyu is also eyeing the ghost doctor's disciple. Chapter 22-29. Don't forget, there's another one who is very interested in student Yi Qing Luo. Master Shenqing lazily glanced at the two masters. You haven't forgotten Bai Mei's expression when she saw Yi Qing Luo, right? The two masters looked at each other and suddenly felt that this year's batch of students from the class of devils would cause the peace in the class of gods to vanish. After the load running started, the devil class students maintained a uniform speed and ran forward in an orderly manner. Very soon, they arrived at the actual combat training forest. The students from the class of God were far ahead and were expressing their disdain towards the devil class students. Thinking of the devil class students, they must be crying for their parents, unable to even move a single step. But when one of the students from the class of God turned around, he discovered that just about 20 to 30 steps away from them, the devil class students were running step by step. There wasn't any wobbling as they imagined, unable to even walk steadily. They weren't sprawled on the ground, unable to move as they imagined. They ran steadily without the slightest hindrance. Could it be that they had cheated and removed the gravity belt? That was impossible. The teachers would use a special secret technique to monitor their training. If the devil class students dared to cheat, the masters should have appeared to reprimand them and given them a warning. This bunch of trash carrying a load of 80 kilograms of gravity belt, and they could still run? They must be putting on a brave front. The path in the forest was extremely steep, and there were various checkpoints set up. For example, climbing, drilling holes, hanging ropes, and other small things. What's more, there were arrays and mechanisms in the inner part of the forest. These things were not known to the devil class students. By then, the devil class students would definitely not have the energy to run. The students from the class of God retracted their gaze and started to dash forward with all their might in an attempt to widen the distance between the two classes. There were many magical beasts in the actual combat training forest. During the load running period, there would also be magical beasts coming over to harass them. Yi Qing Luo had been leading the devil class students, taking small steps behind the students from the class of God, maintaining the most appropriate distance. Because of this, the magical beasts and whatnot were all dealt with by the class of God students. After dealing with 4 to 5 magical beasts, the students from the class of gods reacted and glared at the students from the class of devils who were standing about 20 steps behind them, cursing them for being shameless. Yin Yu laughed coldly and mocked. You are indeed a bunch of trash. You only know how to invest and use tricks. You want to use our strength to complete this mission. You sure have a good plan. Only a fool wouldn't make use of resources. Yi Qing Luo calmly curled her lips without the slightest bit of embarrassment. After all, there are so many guards protecting our safety. Guards. The faces of the students from the class of gods turned ashen. The devil class students actually treated them as guards? Let's see how you're going to follow us now. The student from the class of gods sneered. Soon after, they all rushed into the lush forest and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Kitty, go chase after them. Kitty Lee's small body came out from behind and was about to rush in the direction where they disappeared. Its little tail was caught by Yiqing Luo. Kitty Lee gave a meow as she hugged her own tail and turned her head to look at Yiqing Luo. Sister, Kitty Lee won't be able to catch up if we're late. Chapter 2230. They were here for the class of gods special training. Everything was done by the class of gods. What was the point of their special training? Of course she had to think of a way to piss off the class of gods students and lead her own class's students on their own. But we don't know the way here. Anai Ruopan surveyed the surroundings. The fat teacher led them through the path of the combat training forest and towards the place where they could rest. Yiqing Luo smiled. The unknown is the best special training. In future, you will meet with all kinds of accidents. Even if you are in an unfamiliar place, you must learn to quickly find the most accurate exit. Devil class's students remained silent for a moment and nodded their heads vigorously. We understand. The 11 of them continued forward. Fatty Master gave them a time limit of 9 o'clock, which was before 9 o'clock in the evening. They had to cross 50 kilometers and return to the physical fitness training ground. During this period of time, they had to keep on fighting against the devil class. Keep on crossing all the obstacles. They couldn't stop, couldn't rest. Time gradually passed by a few hours. The sky had turned dark. Devil class's students were gradually feeling the strain. Previously, they had gone through such a high level of training, but it didn't take that long. 30 kilometers of load running was what they could accept. 50 kilometers was too much for them to bear. After dealing with a magical beast, Anai Ruopan was panting so much that she couldn't even speak. Tong Ziqing wiped the sweat off her forehead. Qing Luo, we have already run for 35 kilometers and killed a total of 24 magical beasts. If this goes on, our brother's stamina might not be able to keep up. They were not only carrying the 80-kilogram load belt, and the load belt that they had always worn on their bodies, the lowest was 50 kilograms and the highest was 100 kilograms. The weight on each of them was not just 80 kilograms. Everyone has worked hard. Hang on a little more, there are still 15 kilometers left. After we finish the last 15 kilometers, we can sit down and rest. Yiqing Luo panted. She knew that she could continue to hang on. But for her brothers, they might have reached their limit. Especially after such a long period of exhaustion. The rations they had for lunch had long been digested, both physically and mentally exhausted, but they couldn't take a break, because they were very clear. Although the 3 headmasters had never appeared by their side, but they definitely have their own way of monitoring everything that happens in the forest. If they stopped to rest, the special training this time was equivalent to a failure. The last 15 kilometers. Everyone hold on. Long Yunjian shouted in a deep voice. We don't know the exact strength of the students from the class of gods, nor do we know how many kilometers they've run, so we have to persevere until the end and finish 50 kilometers. Long Yunjian's prestige as the class monitor caused the other students' spirits to involuntarily be roused. Long Yunjian continued. We don't want to be fast, we just want to be steady. We just want to finish the race and complete our first special training mission, since we came to class of God. The students gritted their teeth and took a deep breath. That's right. You don't need to be faster than the students from the class of gods to complete the 50-kilometer weight-bearing cross-country run. He just wanted to persevere and complete the entire journey. This was their special training. It wasn't just that they didn't want the students of the class of gods to look down on them. Chapter 2231. Long Yunjian's encouragement made devil class's students perk up as they dragged their increasingly heavy bodies and ran forward with all their might. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she looked at Long Yunjian with interest. This lad usually didn't utter a single word. Now he knew how to encourage his brothers? And he even specially mentioned the class of gods? Others might not have heard it. But Yiqing Luo heard it clearly. Long Yunjian didn't want to lose to the class of gods. This sudden battle intent. Was it because he was unhappy with the class of gods? Or was it because of Siming Han? The night had darkened once again. In the dense forest, there wasn't a single ray of light. Only in the surroundings of the forest, separated by a long distance, would there be a luminous pearl. In the dense forest, indistinctly, there was an extremely weak glow. The students of the class of gods had long gone on their own, pulling a long distance apart. The ones walking in front were Si Minghan, Yin Yu, and a female student and 2 male students following behind Yin Yu. Through the direction of the luminous pearls, Yin Yu was sweating profusely as she panted heavily. We should be arriving soon. The female student Yi Luo's legs turned into jelly as she held on to her breath and followed beside Yin Yu, as though she was comforting herself and also answering Yin Yu, soon. We are only left with 5 kilometers. The last 5 kilometers. They had run for 45 kilometers, although the time was nearing 9 o'clock. But they were the last 5 kilometers. As long as they completed the entire journey, even if they were a little late, it didn't matter. Yin Yu shook her sweaty eyelashes as her forehead was filled with perspiration, causing the strands of hair on her forehead to stick together. She panted heavily as she laughed softly. All right. We'll be there soon. Devil class, that bunch of trash, absolutely cannot finish the entire journey. Yi Luo nodded her head repeatedly. That bunch of trash can only run 10 to 20 kilometers, and that's already their limit. Moreover, they have to bear the 80-kilogram gravity belt. No matter how awe-inspiring they are in the Heavenly Academy, when they come to our class of gods, they're just trash. Yin Yu's eyes were filled with joy as she laughed complacently. Right, no matter how awe-inspiring the bunch of trash were in the Heavenly Academy. Now they were standing on the turf of the class of gods. That was an ant. He was trash. Save your energy. You might not be able to last the last 5 kilometers. Si Minggan's voice was hoarse as he glanced at Yin Yu coldly. If not for the actual combat training, the magical beasts in the forest were too ferocious. He couldn't be bothered to waste too much energy killing demonic beasts. He really didn't want to run with these gossipy and narrow-minded classmates. Yin Yu and Si Minghan had never gotten along. At this moment, hearing Si Minggan's sarcasm, Yin Yu's face was filled with mockery. Whether or not we can hold on is not Student C's concern. However, I believe that the trash that Student C is worried about is definitely unable to hold on. Si Minghan was in the God class. He was talented and had the care of teacher Shinqing. Yin Yu had always been jealous of Si Minghan, especially now that he saw Si Minghan trying to curry favor with a useless girl from a useless class. She felt embarrassed. There was also a ball of nameless fire in his heart. He wanted to mock Si Minghan. Let Si Minghan know how shameful it was to love a piece of trash. Chapter 2232. Yin Yu stared at his hands, her eyes blazing. Trash will always be trash. They can't even complete 1 round of training. How can they be fit to train with us? Her voice was extremely sharp and harsh. Si Minghan frowned in annoyance. It's not just the devil class who can't complete the training. There are at least a few students in the class who can't complete it. The distance between them and the students from the class of God behind them was getting further and further. Although they would undergo this kind of training every day. But this was their first time going through such a long-distance training of 50 kilometers. Because of this, the students from the class of God couldn't take it anymore after running for more than 30 kilometers. A few of the students from the class of God had set their goal of running 40 kilometers. Because of this, when Yin Yu heard Si Minggan's words, her expression changed. She suppressed her anger and sneered disapprovingly. Ha! Even if the students from the class of God can't complete it, they can at least run 40 kilometers. That bunch of trash from the devil class, it's already not bad if they can run 20 kilometers. She snorted coldly, turned her head and continued to run with all her might. Only the last 5 kilometers. At the end, they would be the first students to complete the entire course. What right did the devil class have to challenge them? On what basis did they think they could win against the class of God? Si Minghan frowned. looked at Yin Yu and the other students, and moved his heavy footsteps, jogging forward. He clenched his fists tighter. Suddenly, he turned his head and ran in a different direction. Si Minghan. Hearing the sound, Yin Yu turned her head and glared in Si Minghan's direction. The last 5 kilometers, don't tell me you're giving up. Looking at Si Minghan's running speed, it was obvious that he had extra energy. To Si Minghan, although 50 kilometers was strenuous, he could barely complete it. But Si Minghan actually turned his head and ran back. And as he ran, he took off the weights on his hands and feet. He violated the rules of the special training and gave up on this training. Did he know that he would be punished for disobeying the teacher's orders? Yin Yu leaned against a nearby tree, gasping for breath as he stared in the direction that Si Minghan had disappeared. There seemed to be an ice-cold venomous snake crawling in his heart. His eyes were cold and gloomy, as if they were dipped in poison. Yi Luo gritted her teeth in anger. That bunch of people from Devil class, not only are they trash, they're also vixens. They actually seduced Si Minghan to the point that he lost his mind, to the point that he doesn't even care about the training this time. The 2 male students at the side nodded repeatedly. A person who doesn't care about himself for the sake of a woman won't be able to achieve great things. Isn't it just a piece of trash? He actually went back to look for that piece of trash himself. Perhaps that woman has already been carried down. The 3 of them spoke one after another. Their original intention was to humiliate Si Minghan and the bunch of trash in Devil class, to make Yin Yu happy. Unexpectedly, Yin Yu's face became more and more unsightly. Yi Luo gave the 2 male students a look, signaling them to shut up. Yi Luo carefully held onto Yin Yu's arm and said in a low voice, Yin Yu, Si Minghan voluntarily gave up on the training. It has nothing to do with us. What we need to do now is to immediately finish the last 5 kilometers and give Devil class trash a show of strength. Yin Yu clenched her fingers. She retracted her gaze hatefully, no longer paying attention to the direction that Si Minghan had disappeared to. Chapter 2233. Si Minghan ignored Yin Yu's advice and insisted on leaving. In the last 5 kilometers, Yin Yu burst out with unprecedented potential. Gritting her teeth, she persisted and rushed out of the actual combat training forest. However, at this moment, an extremely loud and clear bell tolling resounded throughout the entire sky. Yin Yu's body stiffened and her face turned pale. That was the sound of the bell indicating that it was time. Now it was already past the hour. In other words, they didn't complete the special training within the allotted time. Yin Yu, it's alright. Even if we didn't finish within the allotted time, the other students didn't either. At least we are the first batch to finish the 50 kilometers. Yi Luo comforted her softly. Other than them, there was no one else in the class of gods. Even if they didn't finish within the allotted time, that was still the first place. Yin Yu took a deep breath. That's right. No matter what, she finished the entire distance as a sign of respect for the teacher's special training. She gritted her teeth, took a deep breath and rushed towards the direction of the physical training field. Soon, they arrived at the training field. 3 masters were standing in the middle of the huge training ground, discussing something with each other. Their expressions were extremely solemn, as if they were arguing about something. Yin Yu looked around. There were no other students on the training field. She was the first to finish the entire distance and arrive at the training field. The corners of her lips curled up uncontrollably into a smug smile. She shook off Yi Luo's hand and walked forward with weak steps. Yin Yu did not speak first because she wanted to attract the attention of the 3 masters and let them praise her. But the 3 teachers were arguing more fiercely. They didn't even notice Yin Yu's approach. Yin Yu was completely ignored by the 3 headmasters. She bit her lower lip and swayed for a long time, realizing that the 3 teachers had no intention of paying attention to her. She was about to remind them, but she vaguely heard the teachers arguing, as if she heard the Devil class and Yi Qingluo's name. But before she could listen carefully, she heard Fat Master coughing violently. Student Yin Yu, you also completed the 50 kilograms of weight run, right? Although it was a little late, but your determination to finish the 50 kilometers is worth learning. The voices of the other two teachers stopped arguing. When they looked at Yanyu again, a kind smile appeared on their faces. Yanyu felt a chill down his spine from the laughter of the three teachers. Why, she didn't feel that Fatty Master was happy because she ran 50 kilometers. Furthermore, what did the word also mean? Yanyu did not have time to think. The fat teacher had already called for them to go to the side and ask teacher Xinqing for a water bag. The few of them were drenched in sweat from running and were about to fall to the ground. As soon as he heard about the water bag, he immediately pulled Yanyu to look for Master Xinqing to get the water bag. After receiving 4 water bags, they gathered together and drank all the water in the bag. Seeing Yanyu's unhappy expression, Iluo comforted. Yanyu, don't think too much about it. You're the first student to complete a 50-kilometer weight-bearing cross-country run. This is also our first time running such a long distance. The headmaster must be too excited. Yanyu gripped the water bag in his hand tightly, his eyes filled with ruthlessness. How could she not feel the headmaster's excitement? Those 3 old men actually didn't even have a word of praise. Chapter 2234. Now she had finally completed it. But she was just late by a little bit. Those 3 old men actually treated her in this way? Yanyu, didn't Devil Class's student called Yiqing Luo say that they would not be carried out of the training forest, and would definitely complete all the special training? No one from their class has appeared on the training grounds. The male student could tell the dissatisfaction and resentment in Yanyu's heart. He hurriedly directed the topic towards Devil Class. As expected, Yanyu's anger was directed towards Devil Class's students. She gripped the water bag tightly and fiercely threw it on the ground. The corners of her mouth curled into a cold sneer. That group of trash is just relying on their ignorance to spout nonsense. Just based on a group of trash like them, I can easily pinch them to death with a flick of my finger. Seeing that Yanyu's attention was diverted, Iluo immediately nodded her head in agreement. That's right, that's right. We are the first to complete 50 kilometers of load-bearing cross-country. Even if Devil Class really has students who completed 50 kilometers, they would be after us. I don't know where they got their faces from to challenge us. Now they're kicked to the cold bench. The male student echoed along. Hearing the few of them humiliating Devil Class and Yiqing Luo, Yanyu's heart was incomparably savage. She hated Yiqing Luo and hated her. Now that there was such a chance to humiliate Yiqing Luo, she would absolutely not let it go. The few of them chimed in one after another, chatting happily. They were even discussing how to humiliate Yiqing Luo when they met her later. After the 3 masters finished discussing their own matters, they then noticed that Yanyu and the other students were huddled by the side, apparently extremely complacent. They frowned as their gazes turned towards a certain direction, just as they were about to open their mouths to stop Yanyu and the rest. Another 2 students from the class of gods jogged over in exhaustion. Another 2 students from class of gods had completed the entire course. Yanyu and the rest went up to them and passed them 2 water bags as they flattered each other. When the students from class of gods heard that Devil Class's students had not even seen their shadows, they started to laugh and ridicule. Previously, Devil Class's students had spouted nonsense and humiliated the entire class of gods. The truth had proven that Devil Class's students were a bunch of trash. They still had the cheek to be arrogant in front of them. Who knew where he got his confidence from? You're running in front so you don't know earlier. Devil Class's leader, that little slut called Yiqing Luo, was desperately pleading for my help, hoping that I could bring her out. After the male student finished drinking the water, he became energetic and began to brag. I didn't agree with her, but she actually wanted to use her face to seduce me. The male student patted his chest, his eyes filled with love as he looked at Yanyu and said, Everyone knows that I like student Yanyu. She's just a slut, and she wants to seduce me? I just dumped her. The other students laughed mockingly, and their ambiguous gazes swept between the male student and Yanyu. Yanyu rolled her eyes as she arrogantly pushed the male student's face to one side. I allow you to like me, but I've never agreed to be together with you. Since Yiqing Luo wants to seduce you, just agree to it directly. At least that face of hers is indeed beautiful. The male student pressed his heart as if to show his loyalty. My feelings for Yen Yu can be witnessed by the sun and the moon. I don't like the other shameless sluts. Chapter 2235. The few students roared with laughter. Yen Yu's mood was lifted by the male students boasting. Suddenly, a clear voice floated over from the spacious training ground. Yo? This student, when did I tempt you to bring me out of the training forest? As the person involved, why don't I know about it? This voice was extremely pleasing to the ears. But the words that came out were filled with an incomparably chilly chill. The few students who were still boasting instantly felt a chill down their spines, as all their mocking voices were stuck in their throats. They saw a red figure leisurely walking out from the darkness at the corner of the training ground where the weapons rack was placed. The young lady's fine black hair was tied up tightly behind her head without a single strand of hair left. The red outfit clung tightly to her petite figure. Her body was drenched in sweat, but her expression didn't show any signs of fatigue. Instead, her lips were curled into a faint smile. When the few class of God students' gazes fell onto Yiqing Luo's face, they drew in a breath of cold air in disbelief. Yiqing Luo? Why was she here? And the direction she walked out from was the opposite direction of the training ground's entrance. Which meant to say, didn't Yiqing Luo just complete 50 kilometers of weight-bearing cross-country and return to the training ground? Instead, she had been here since long ago? No. Impossible. How could Yiqing Luo possibly complete 50 kilometers of weight-bearing cross-country faster than them? You must have forfeited in advance, unable to complete this special training, so you returned to the training ground earlier. That boasting male student pointed at Yiqing Luo as he took a few steps back in disbelief. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her gorgeous face blossomed into a beautiful smile. How could I forfeit in advance? If I forfeit in advance, who is the lady who shamelessly pestered you and begged you to bring her out of the training forest? The male student's face turned pale. This was something he had casually boasted about. He didn't expect that the person in question would hear everything. However, when he saw the look in Yen Yu's eyes, the male student made up his mind. He clenched his teeth and said angrily, Yen Yu, look at her. She admitted it herself. She shamelessly tried to seduce me into taking her away from the training forest. Yen Yu's face was sinister as his eyes were filled with viciousness. Yiqing Luo, I don't care who you seduced to come back here, but special training is after all special training. Isn't it too disgusting for you to use such underhanded methods? Yes, it is indeed disgusting. Yiqing Luo nodded in agreement. An alluring smile hung on her lips, but the chill in her eyes revealed a bone-chilling coldness. The quality of the students in the class of gods indeed disgusts me. You, Yiqing Luo, you're still trying to quibble. When the male student saw that, he immediately reprimanded her angrily. I rejected your seduction, and that means my quality isn't good enough? What kind of logic is this? Yiqing Luo covered her mouth and smiled enchantingly. Her long and narrow eyes gazed at the male student with a light smile. Since the male student said that I seduced you earlier then. Tell me, when did I seduce you? Just 1 hour ago, in the training forest. You couldn't run so you kept pestering me. The male student replied in a fluster. 1 hour ago. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers brushed past her pink lips. Her posture was elegant and dignified, charming everyone. Chapter 2236. Half an hour ago? The male student's eyes widened in disbelief. You're talking nonsense. Half an hour ago. We were all in the actual combat training forest. How could you? How could it be? His face turned pale as he stared at Yiqing Luo, unable to believe her words. It wasn't only this male student who couldn't believe it. The students from the class of God couldn't believe this fact. The students from the class of God, had carried weights for 50 kilometers and were not able to reach the training grounds within the allotted time. Devil class's waste. How could it be possible for them to be resting in the training grounds an hour earlier? Unless Yiqing Luo gave up the special training midway. Yen Yu's pretty face turned pale, as though she had found an excuse. She stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Didn't the devil class spout nonsense, that you wouldn't be carried out of the training forest? Didn't you dare to challenge the master? You actually gave up the special training midway? If the devil class's students are so disinterested in the special training, then what's the point of coming to the class of God? The few students from the class of God immediately understood what was going on when they heard that. Yiqing Luo must have given up the special training and returned to the training grounds early. Yiqing Luo's throat emitted a soft laughter. It's not important whether I gave up the special training or not. What's important is that student, even if you're in the class of God all year round, living a high and mighty life, you should also know how important reputation is to a lady. She was still laughing. Her smile was brilliant, like a gorgeous rose that had bloomed, but that smile didn't reach her eyes. Just one look at her made one feel an indescribable cold wind seeping into their skin. It was extremely cold. The male student's legs turned to jelly as he looked at Yiqing Luo shivering. Yiqing Luo took a step closer and smiled sweetly. You've ruined my reputation, spreading rumors about me. Tell me. How are you going to compensate me? An invisible pressure was released, pressing down in an overwhelming manner. The male student's pupils suddenly dilated, as though he had seen something shocking. He actually sat down on the ground. The other students from the class of God felt extremely embarrassed. Their faces were burning hot. No one was willing to help the male student up. Yen Yu looked at Yiqing Luo's complacent look and clenched his fingers tightly as he raised his finger and pointed at Yiqing Luo, speaking in a righteous manner. I understand Pei Huan's character very well. He's not someone who speaks irresponsibly. If this matter hadn't really happened, Pei Huan would absolutely not say that. The male student named Pei Huan saw that his goddess was speaking up for him. He nodded vigorously. That's right. I saw you in the training forest an hour ago. You were the one who seduced me and wanted me to take you out of the forest. You said that you were already resting in the training grounds an hour ago. Who can guarantee that after you gave up the special training, you intentionally sneaked into the training forest, hoping to find a student from the class of gods to be your backing? Yi Luo gave a cold humph, her eyes filled with disdain towards Yiqing Luo. When Yiqing Luo heard that, she burst out laughing with a pfft sound. Why were all the students in the class of gods so retarded? Did they really think of themselves as the top student of the Heavenly Academy? She was so retarded that she didn't even want to complain. Yiqing Luo raised her eyelids lazily. She looked as though she couldn't be bothered to continue talking to them as she directly turned around and walked towards the corner of the weapon rack. Yen Yu's eyes turned red from anger. Yiqing Luo, are you angry from embarrassment? You have no excuse to rebuke, right? You're the trash from the devil class. Shut up. Chapter 2237. Yen Yu and the rest of the students gritted their teeth as they lowered their heads. Fatty Master walked over. His perfectly round body shook as he walked. Yen Yu lowered her head and clenched her fists tightly as her body tensed up. Just as Fatty Master walked over, she couldn't take it anymore as she raised her head and looked at Fatty Master coldly. Fatty Master, I know what you want to say, but I have something in my heart that I must say. Fatty Master stopped in his tracks as he frowned slightly. He opened his mouth and was about to speak. Yen Yu interrupted again. The students from the devil class are here to undergo special training in the class of gods. However, the devil class doesn't even put the special training in their eyes. Not only did they give up on the special physical training, they even tried to bring the shameless vulgarity of the lower class to our class of gods, attempting to pollute our students. She stared at the fat teacher with determination, and did not take his warning gaze to heart. Yen Yu really couldn't understand. Why did Fatty Master stop her and blame devil class? It was obviously devil class's fault. Why did Fatty Master still want to protect devil class? While they were arguing, 3 more students from the class of gods dragged their exhausted bodies over. Coincidentally, they heard Yen Yu's angry roar. A few of the students from the class of gods added fuel to the fire, as they explained what had happened to the class of devils. Immediately, the students from class of gods started to despise devil class even more. Student Yenyu. Teacher Yi saw that Yenyu's words were getting more and more bitter as he called out to stop her. He had just opened his mouth when Yenyu snatched the right to speak. Teacher Yi, I know what you want to say. I also know that from teacher's point of view, there are many things that are not convenient for you to say, but I will help you to say it. Teacher Yi. He was dumbstruck. He didn't even know what he wanted to say, so how did Yenyu know? Yenyu looked coldly at Yiqing Luo, who was sitting at the corner of the weapon rack and ridiculed. This morning, student Yiqing Luo had just arrived at Class of God and pulled Teacher Yi along, using Ghost Doctor's reputation to flatter him. Everyone in Class of Gods knows that Teacher Yi and the Ghost Doctor have been good friends for many years. Student Yiqing Luo intentionally made use of Ghost Doctor to flatter Teacher Yi. Wasn't it so that Teacher Yi would take care of her? Thinking on a deeper level, student Yiqing Luo is trying to make use of the Ghost Doctor's reputation to make Teacher Yi keep her in the Class of Gods. Yenyu's words made the other Class of Gods students look at Yiqing Luo in disdain, pointing towards Yiqing Luo's direction. His tone was filled with disdain. Teacher Yi's face darkened. They were wholeheartedly focused on guiding the students to improve their strength. But he had forgotten to teach his students how to behave. So, now Yenyu did not care about the headmaster at all, and could express his opinion on behalf of him at will? Listening to the discussions on the other side, Yiqing Luo gave them a bored look. Soon after, a lofty expression appeared on his face, as if he was looking down on an ant. This gaze immediately caused Yenyu and the others to feel as if there was a ball of fire burning in their hearts. Yiqing Luo. What kind of expression is that? Don't tell me you still want to defend yourself. Yenyu's voice was sharp as he howled in rage. Yiqing Luo tugged her pink lips as she elegantly stood up from the ground. She walked out from the dark corner once again. But this time, the people who walked out from the dark corner were not only Yiqing Luo alone, and those people from Devil Class. One after another, their footsteps were steady, confident and elegant as they appeared in front of everyone. Chapter 2238. When they saw Devil Class's students appearing at the training grounds, looks of disbelief appeared on the faces of the students of the Class of Gods. What was going on? Weren't they in the 50 kilometers of weighted cross-country training? Why were Devil Class's students all at the training grounds? And they totally didn't look like they had run 50 kilometers. Could it be those Devil Class's students had all given up on the special training? Class of Gods students thought of themselves. In order not to let Devil Class's students see them as a joke, they had almost died of exhaustion in the actual combat training forest, and had to clench their teeth to complete the entire course. But the Devil Class actually used this kind of attitude to treat their special training of the Class of Gods. No matter how they thought about it, their hearts couldn't be balanced. Quibble? I don't think I have anything to quibble about. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up as she gave a charming smile. But I think, Student Yenyu, you'd better use your brain and think about how to quibble about it. Yenyu felt a dull pain in her heart from her smile, as she had an indescribable uneasy premonition. Yenyu suppressed this strange feeling as she took a deep breath and retorted angrily. What do you mean? Regarding Student Yenyu's slander earlier, let's talk about it one by one slowly. Yiqing Luo smiled calmly. She walked forward slowly and her footsteps were extremely stable. Her red outfit, which was like the blazing sun, accentuated her beautiful figure to the fullest. Every step she took and every move she took would set off a red afterimage, like a dream or fantasy. The young lady stood firmly in front of Yenyu, and she was at least 5 steps away from Yenyu. She caressed the side of her narrow sleeves, the dark golden devil word embroidery as her tone was calm like still water. Firstly, from the beginning till the end, I had never said that Devil Class had given up on the special training. Yiqing Luo's aura was indeed so strong that it made one unable to withstand it. Yenyu was even more unable to withstand it. She looked at Yiqing Luo as her pupils reflected Yiqing Luo's tranquil and beautiful face. Don't tell me you're trying to say that Devil Class have all completed the special training? If they didn't give up on the special training, Then the only way to appear at the training grounds was to complete the special training. But impossible. Class of God students all shook their heads. No one was willing to believe it. Devil class in the academy had the nickname of Trash Class 1. Even if they won first place this year, it would just be luck. Most importantly, a 50-kilometer weight-bearing cross-country run. The students of the class of gods, who trained extremely hard every day, were already struggling. How could the devil class complete it? Even if they wanted to save face, they had to be realistic. Class of God students all looked towards Yiqing Luo. But he saw Yiqing Luo revealing a brilliant smile under all kinds of ridicule and puzzled gazes. It was as if she couldn't see the ridicule directed at her by the students of the class of gods. She smiled sweetly and said calmly, "Yes, I am." The students of the class of gods were dumbfounded. "What is it?" Wait. Earlier, Yin Yu asked, "Don't tell me that devil class has completed the special training." And later on, Yiqing Luo replied yes. In other words, was Yiqing Luo admitting that their devil class had completed the 50-kilogram load of cross-country? Did Yiqing Luo really not intend to keep her face? Chapter 2239. Yin Yu staggered a few steps back. Her pupils widened as she shook her head in disbelief. "No. Impossible, Yiqing Luo, are you still so thick-skinned? Refusing to admit that you have given up the special training? You are just a waste from the lower class, a bunch of trash. How could it be possible?" As she was speaking, she suddenly thought of something as her eyes shot towards the gloomy faces of Teacher Yi and Fat Teacher. Yin Yu directly blamed Yiqing Luo for the two masters' ugly expressions. It must be Yiqing Luo's shamelessness that had infuriated them. "Teacher, you are the most impartial. The first person to complete the 50 kilometers load run is me. Isn't that right? Devil classes students can't possibly complete such a super difficult physical training." As long as the teacher said so, he would definitely be able to give the devil class a hard slap on that slut Yiqing Luo's face. In the Heavenly Academy, Yiqing Luo could be arrogant for a while. But in the class of gods, anyone here could easily pinch Yiqing Luo to death. What right did she have to strut around in the class of gods? Yin Yu clenched her teeth hatefully as she looked at the teachers with a hopeful gaze. The students in the class of gods also quietened down as they looked towards the teachers. Teacher E and Fat Teacher's faces remained gloomy. Their gloomy eyes glanced coldly at Yin Yu. Teacher E pursed his lips tightly as his expression turned cold as he looked at the students in the class of gods and said word by word, "Devil classes students are the first batch to complete the 50 kilometers load run and return to the training ground. Moreover, you have completed the special training more than an hour earlier." Teacher Yi's words were like a lightning strike, striking into the students' hearts. The students only felt their vision turning black as their breathing quickened. What did Teacher Yi say? Devil class had completed the special training? And more than an hour earlier? More than an hour earlier? The male student named Pei Huan thought back to the words he had boasted about. Yiqing Luo had said from the start that he was already at the training ground an hour earlier. It was all true. Fat Teacher looked at the dumbstruck expressions of the students in the class of gods. His expression was dark and gloomy. He was really disappointed in these young students this time. After all, they were the students that he had taught personally. Who would have thought that he would be so ignorant of how to conduct himself? If this matter were to spread out, the high and mighty image of the class of gods would be completely destroyed. Today's special training, the few of us monitored the entire process. From the start to the end, the devil classes students did not cheat at all. They had truly completed the 50 kilometers weighted cross-country run. As the fatty master's words fell, the students of the class of gods fell to the ground, unable to accept what had just happened. They felt as if their pride had been ruthlessly crushed. They had followed the headmaster for so many years. Naturally, he was clear that these two teachers would never speak up for the devil class. This was indeed the truth. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a faint smile. That smile was bright and beautiful. However, for no reason at all. It caused a chill to run down one's spine, and one's body and mind immediately stiffened. Following this, let's talk about the matter regarding this student Pei slandering me. Yiqing Luo looked at Pei Huan smilingly, but there wasn't a hint of a smile in her eyes. Pei Huan's legs immediately turned to jelly as he stammered. I didn't. Chapter 2240. Class of God students' expressions congealed as they looked towards the masters. The masters nodded slightly and turned their heads away, not looking at them, as though they felt ashamed. Class of God students drew in a breath of cold air. The three masters had already testified. Obviously, what Pei Huan said was all lies. Class of God students, although they didn't like and despised the devil class, but in order to boast about his ability in front of Yanyu, he actually slandered a young lady's reputation. If this matter was spread out without the master's testimonies, how was Yiqing Luo going to conduct herself in the future? This kind of behavior was shameful to them. After all, to them, devil class was just a lower class, a waste who came for special training. Waste's various hoots, they would at most give them a slap on the face and not take it to heart. But Pei Huan's behavior was indeed a disgrace to the class of God. While everyone was using condemning gazes to stare fiercely at Pei Huan, Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she smiled calmly. Of course, if what student Pei said is true, then I have the right to suspect that someone is trying to ruin my reputation, disguising as me and sending out an invitation to you. As she said that, her long and narrow eyes squinted slightly. It was indescribably enchanting. It made one's heart palpitate. Class of God students could hear the chill in Yiqing Luo's words. They could also tell that there was a hidden murderous intent in that pair of eyes. However, even though he clearly knew everything, he couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't help but sink under her charm. This feeling was too strange. Class of God students' hearts couldn't help but tighten as they palpitated wildly. The entire crowd was silent. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened. Our devil class's students have always acted as a team from the start. Half an hour ago, we were resting here and no one left. That means to say, it's your class's students who disguised as me, trying to frame me. She paused as her gaze fixed on Yanyu. And the seniors in Class of God don't care about us foreign students. The only one who has been targeting me since I entered Class of God is only one person. Everyone subconsciously shifted their gaze onto Yanyu. Indeed, from the start to the end, Yanyu had always found devil classes Yiqing Luo an eyesore. It wasn't that he hated the demon class, but he only hated Yiqing Luo this person. Moreover, when he thought about it carefully, after they had returned from their special training, before they could even rest, they were pulled to join in the action of accusing the devil class. Wasn't this all started by Yanyu? Yanyu's face darkened. What are you all looking at me for? I've been burying my head in completing the special training. I don't have the time to plot against a piece of trash. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows. If it's not you, I really can't think of a second candidate, unless my enemy has sneaked into the Class of God. She knocked her head in a perplexed manner and turned to look at the two teachers behind her. Fat teacher, Teacher E, this concerns my reputation and the safety of the Class of God. I suggest that you investigate this thoroughly. Student Yiqing Luo. Teacher E frowned slightly and was about to persuade Yiqing Luo to resolve the matter. But when he met with Yiqing Luo's pair of sparkling eyes, his persuasion words were stuck in his throat, unable to spit out a single word. Chapter 2241. You, who do you think you are? I didn't do that. Yanyu's pretty face turned colder. You're just a waste from the lower class. What right do you have to investigate me? Yiqing Luo raised her brows and nodded thoughtfully. That's true. Why don't we go to the faculty council and look for President C? Yanyu's pupils shrank. Yiqing Luo smiled again. President C is a student of the Class of Gods. He won't be biased. Yanyu's slender fingers curled up tightly, as if she couldn't wait to teach Yiqing Luo a lesson. How could she let the faculty council intervene in the affairs of the class of gods? Once the faculty council intervened, today's matter would be spread throughout the entire Heavenly Academy. The reputation of the class of gods would be completely ruined. Yanyu is so resistant to the investigation, could it be? Yiqing Luo opened her mouth and put on a surprised look. It's really. The word "you" hadn't left her mouth. With a thud, Pei Huan knelt in front of Fatty Teacher and Teacher Yi. He seemed to be unable to bear the torture and cried in a hoarse voice. Teacher, I know I'm wrong. I shouldn't have been so vain. I shouldn't have lied in front of Yanyu and slandered Yiqing Luo. The whole place was silent again. Pei Huan was the only one who continued to cry and repeat the words he had said. After a while, the fat master glanced at Yiqing Luo with his narrow eyes. Yiqing Luo, since Pei Huan has realized his mistake, Yiqing Luo glanced at Pei Huan, who was kneeling on the ground, and smiled innocently. Pei Huan is teacher's student. I have no opinion on how to deal with him. The fat master's words were stuck in his throat. She was his student. A student made such a mistake. As a teacher, he wouldn't let it go so easily. He was afraid that other students would follow suit. Yiqing Luo had no opinion on it. However, her words had completely blocked his way of exonerating Pei Huan. Then, Pei Huan will be punished with 1 month's worth of resources. All other resources will be cancelled. Teacher Yi closed his eyes and announced Pei Huan's punishment. Pei Huan's eyes widened in horror. Teacher Yi, spare me. Teacher Yi, spare me. You can hit me or scold me, but don't cancel my resources. No. Resources were equivalent to the elixirs, secret manuals, or cultivation methods provided by the academy, cultivating the profound rank. If he slacked off for a day or two, others would easily catch up to him. Let alone a month's worth of resources. 1 month could be the difference of a grade, or even a mystic grade. Teacher Yi waved his hand, indicating for Pei Huan to leave. Pei Huan knew that it was hopeless to plead for leniency, so he suppressed the grief in his heart and stared at Yiqing Luo furiously before leaving dejectedly. Pei Huan's departure caused the atmosphere in the surroundings to turn strange. Yiqing Luo elegantly and indifferently tugged the corners of her lips as she looked at Yanyu, the smile in her eyes spreading out. Next, let's talk about the third point. Yanyu was frightened by her gaze and staggered backward. Yiqing Luo pressed forward. Her smile was as brilliant as a rose blooming, captivating one's soul. I'm very curious. Why is student Yanyu always making things difficult for me? Logically speaking, I'm just a student of the class of devils, and your high and mighty class of gods wouldn't even bother to interact with us. Chapter 2242. I'm jealous of you? Yanyu seemed to have heard something funny and couldn't stop laughing. You're just trash from a lower class. Why would I be jealous of you? Yiqing Luo's brows rose in ridicule as her lips curled into a cold sneer. If it's not jealousy, then how do you explain why student Yanyu has repeatedly targeted me? How did I target you? You're just trash from a lower class. What's there for me to target? Yanyu roared angrily. Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders and spread out her hands. Could it be that I sensed wrongly? Her gaze swept across the students of the class of gods. Seeing this, the students from the class of gods looked away. It was obvious that he had tacitly agreed. Class of gods students could obviously feel that Yanyu had been targeting Yiqing Luo. Yanyu was so angry that her face turned white. I just didn't. In my eyes you are nothing but an ant. Yiqing Luo burst out laughing. I wonder how student Yanyu would feel after losing to an inferior class's trash, an ant in this special training. Yiqing Luo laughed out loud. You. Yanyu's delicate body trembled in anger. Yiqing Luo didn't wait for her to finish her sentence, as she snatched a step forward and laughed lowly. Student Yanyu is even more useless than the lower class's waste. Even more insignificant than an ant. No wonder student Yanyu couldn't accept it in her heart, so her brain turned hot and her mouth was full of sh*t. Yanyu's beautiful face twisted uncontrollably. The fury in his heart and hatred towards Yiqing Luo continued to spread. Yiqing Luo totally didn't give Yanyu any chance to open his mouth. Her gaze was calm as she looked at Teacher E. Student Yenyu said that I used Master Ghost Doctor to achieve my goals. Not only is this an insult to me, it's also an insult to my Master Ghost Doctor. More importantly, it's an insult to the intellect of all the teachers here. Teacher Yi's eyes were deep as he sized up the calm-looking girl. His heart couldn't help but tighten, looking at Yi Qing Luo's solemn look. Could it be that she really was the Ghost Doctor's disciple? You still want to quibble? If you're the Ghost Doctor's disciple, then show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. What proof do you have you're Ghost Doctor's disciple? Yenyu pointed at Yi Qing Luo hysterically. How could she be so calm? What right did she have to act as if victory was already in her grasp? Without any evidence, she would forever be a scheming B*TCH who made use of the Ghost Doctor's reputation. Me. Suddenly, a deep and icy cold voice resounded. That voice wasn't loud, but it contained a terrifying aura. Everyone was taken aback and looked in the direction of the voice. An old man dressed in apothecary robes slowly walked over. The old man was upright and meticulous from head to toe. He exuded an incomparably noble demeanor, the demeanor of an expert. Following his steps, everyone could clearly smell the faintly discernible scent of herbs coming from the old man's body. It was refreshing, but not too strong. It didn't smell bitter. Instead, it made one feel refreshed and tired. This is the Ghost Doctor. Class of God students stared blankly at the approaching old man as the two words, Ghost Doctor, appeared in their minds. These students from Class of God, in order to show that they were different from the other classes in the Heavenly Academy, had always been cooped up in Class of God, unwilling to interact with those trash. Occasionally, for the sake of the Academy's limelight, they would make an appearance. Chapter 2243. As of now, the students in Class of Gods probably didn't even remember the director's looks clearly. This was also the reason why Yi Qing Luo was famous in Heavenly Academy, and even in the Western continent, but the students in Class of Gods didn't recognize Devil Class, and the reason why they didn't recognize Yi Qing Luo. When Ghost Doctor appeared in Class of Gods, the students finally understood what was going on. What was called aura. There was a type of person who just stood there. Then you would know who he was. Ghost Doctor was this kind of person. But when the students in Class of Gods regained their senses from the shock, the expressions on their faces changed drastically. With a look of disbelief, they stared at Yi Qing Luo. Earlier Ghost Doctor seemed to have said one word. What he meant was, he was the evidence. He was the evidence of Yi Qing Luo's master? That's right. Ghost Doctor himself had appeared personally. Wasn't he the best evidence? Could it be that Yi Qing Luo was really Ghost Doctor's disciple? Otherwise, why would Ghost Doctor personally come to Class of Gods to clear Yi Qing Luo's name? No. Yenyu's pupils kept dilating as she stared at Ghost Doctor's approaching figure, trembling like a sieve. Just as Ghost Doctor walked nearer, Yenyu suddenly pointed at Yi Qing Luo. Her face filled with hatred as she howled. Sir Ghost Doctor, you heard that someone used your disciple's name to swindle people, so you specially came over to catch her. It's her, it's this slut. She had been making use of your reputation to cheat Master, and even us. Right. That's right, Ghost Doctor must be here to catch the swindler. Yi Qing Luo, that trash. How could she possibly be Ghost Doctor's disciple? Who was Ghost Doctor? She had heard Master E ridiculing Ghost Doctor more than once. For someone like Ghost Doctor who was afraid of trouble, how could he possibly take in a disciple? When the students in Class of Gods heard that, their gazes immediately fell onto Yi Qing Luo. The expressions on their faces also had some changes. Hearing Yenyu's words, they immediately felt that Ghost Doctor was here to catch the swindler who used his reputation to swindle people. But that bunch of trash in Devil Class, what was with their pitiful gazes? Sir Ghost Doctor, catch her and interrogate her properly. She had been using your name to bully others in Class of Gods. Now that Sir Ghost Doctor is here personally, let's see if she still has any face left to continue acting. When Yenyu saw that the Ghost Doctor didn't speak for a long time, she became more and more anxious. His words became sharper and sharper. Teacher E glared at her, signaling her to shut up. Then he welcomed the ghost doctor. Old ghost doctor, why are you in the mood to come to the class of gods? The ghost doctor avoided Teacher Yi's touch and coldly swept her gaze over Yen Yu and the students present. But he did not look in the direction of the devil class. Teacher E felt a headache coming on. He coughed dryly and said, "It's just a joke between the students. It's just a small matter, don't take it to heart." Small matter? The ghost doctor finally spoke, her voice deep and cold. Teacher E was well aware that this was the precursor to the ghost doctor's wrath. He furrowed his brows, feeling a headache coming on. "I'll deal with this. You should know that the students of the class of gods aren't friendly to students from other classes. As for that student, I'm sure he just wanted to establish himself in the class of gods, so he used the wrong method." The ghost doctor scoffed coldly. Teacher E only felt that the surrounding air had turned colder by several degrees. When Fatty Teacher saw that, he hurriedly put on a smile and walked over. "Ghost doctor, what oldie said is right. They're all kids, don't be too calculative. It's rare for you to come over, and we haven't gathered for a long time. Why don't we go to the backyard for a drink?" Chapter 2244. The whole place was silent. Teacher Yi's hand, which was reaching for the ghost doctor, froze in mid-air. The fat teacher's smiling face stiffened. The surrounding students sucked in a breath of cold air, incomparably shocked. What did the ghost doctor say? His disciple? Disciple? Yiqing Luo was really ghost doctor's disciple? Just when everyone was filled with doubts, Devil Class's 10 students all surrounded Ghost Doctor, as they greeted him with a beaming face. "Sir Ghost Doctor, you're finally here. If you didn't come, our Qing Luo would be bullied to death." Yen Xiaoyi intentionally leaned closer to Ghost Doctor's side, as she gave Yin Yu a meaningful look. "That's right, Sir Ghost Doctor. Some students in the class of gods kept on insulting our Qing Luo, saying that she is a little slut who uses your reputation to cheat others. They feel that our devil class doesn't have any backing and we can't win against them." A few devil class students nodded their heads in agreement. Each of them was more aggrieved than the other. The flames around the ghost doctor's body grew increasingly cold. The students of the class of gods shuddered involuntarily. Normally, no matter how high and mighty they were, no matter how proud they were. However, when facing powerful seniors like the headmaster, he would still listen to them obediently. Now that the ghost doctor was angry, the students of the class of gods knew that they were in the wrong and lowered their heads, not daring to make a sound. Teacher E was stunned as well. He watched helplessly as Ghost Doctor turned around, walking towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The devil class students all opened up a path, in a direction that the Ghost Doctor couldn't see. They looked towards Yen Yu. The grievance on their faces was replaced by pity and sympathy. Anger invaded Yen Yu's limbs and bones. Her face was malevolent as she stared venomously at Yiqing Luo. Unable to believe that Ghost Doctor was really real, he walked towards Yiqing Luo. This group of trash. What right did he have to look at her like that? Why should he pity her, sympathize with her? She was a student of the high and mighty class of gods. He was a talented, profound practitioner, who could ascend to the upper realm in the future. What right did this bunch of trash have to look down on her? But, Yen Yu saw with his own eyes. Ghost Doctor walked to Yiqing Luo's side. Raising his hand, which had always been used to refining pills, he rubbed Yiqing Luo's head. "Little Luo, I'm not here and you start to cause trouble?" The Ghost Doctor's voice was still very cold, but anyone could tell that this kind of coldness, compared to the coldness she had shown to the others earlier, was like a completely different person. Yiqing Luo rubbed against Ghost Doctor's palm as she revealed a sweet smile. "I'm an obedient and well-behaved student who has never created any trouble." The Ghost Doctor rolled her eyes at her. "How do you want to deal with this matter?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows and looked at Teacher E. The three masters were stunned by the scene in front of them. The students of the devil class had completed the 50 kilograms weight run an hour earlier. They were already very shocked and astonished. Today, the news of Yiqing Luo being Ghost Doctor's disciple had been personally verified by Ghost Doctor himself. Furthermore, the ghost doctor, who had always been afraid of trouble, had personally come to the class of gods to support his disciple. It could be seen that the ghost doctor truly doted on her little disciple. This lady called Yiqing Luo. Just where did she come from? Now ghost doctor actually wanted to ask Yiqing Luo how to deal with these people who had wrongly accused her and slandered her. Directly bypassing these few masters, it could be seen that ghost doctor was really infuriated. Chapter 2245. Yiqing Luo's words also successfully stopped the masters from pleading on behalf of their students. Ghost doctor had personally come to support his disciple. If they didn't punish this student who had been targeting ghost doctor's disciple, that would be not giving ghost doctor any face. Although they were all experts who came down from the upper realm, but in front of ghost doctor, they were nothing. The three masters' expressions stiffened as they hurriedly stepped forward. The three of us will handle this matter properly and will not be biased. Ghost doctor's face was gloomy as he gave a cold snort. The three masters lowered their heads as they stared at Yanyu hatefully. Yanyu felt as though something had exploded in her brain. It was as if something had collapsed. Her vision turned black as she fell limply onto the ground. The students who had always been on good terms with Yanyu didn't dare to step forward to help her, afraid that Yiqing Luo's anger would be directed to them. Yi Luo bit her lower lip as she looked at Yanyu, wanting to step forward but not daring to. Yiqing Luo sneered as she took in the entire scene. She scoffed lightly as her eyes were filled with disdain and despise towards Yanyu. No matter if it was the Heavenly Academy or this self-proclaimed high and mighty class of gods, it was inevitable for them to be the same as ordinary people. This was human nature. No matter how they were on good terms and treated each other honestly, once it involved their own interests, they would fall out faster than flipping a book. Hurry and carry her down. Teacher Yi glanced at the group of students who were trembling in fear. This group of students only knew how to bully the weak and fear the strong. Usually their eyes grew on top of their heads. In front of Ghost Doctor, all of them were frightened to such an extent. The masters expressed that it was shameful to have taught such a student. Those students actually turned their gazes towards Ghost Doctor, although they were taught not to understand the ways of the world. But he saw that the three masters were all extremely respectful towards the Ghost Doctor. They knew clearly that this Ghost Doctor was the real boss. Ghost Doctor didn't say anything, so they didn't dare to carry Yanyu. This action caused the faces of the three teachers to darken. Not waiting for Ghost Doctor to open his mouth, Yiqing Luo had already laughed out. Fatty teacher, Teacher Yi, Teacher Shen. Although teaching students to raise their abilities and becoming strong is the most crucial thing. But how should I put it? This is the principle of being a human. It's time to teach him. The faces of the masters darkened even more. But due to the Ghost Doctor's presence, he didn't dare to flare up. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes swept across their expressions and couldn't help but let out a light laugh. This is the class of God. The three masters are the real masters of the class of God. My master is just a guest. As the students of the class of God, you're trying to take advantage of my master's mood. Where are the faces of the three masters? Even though she was smiling, it was a smile. However, his voice was powerful and resonant, causing people to be shocked. She let go of the Ghost Doctor's arm, her gaze calm and indifferent as it swept over the students of the class of gods. Perhaps it was because the Ghost Doctor was present. Or perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo's aura was too majestic. The students of the class of gods instinctively lowered their heads. Yanyu was so infuriated that she was trembling. I'm not teaching you anything. I just want you to know clearly who your masters are, who have always been teaching you. Who gave you the right to be so arrogant and supercilious? Yiqing Luo's voice was calm without any undulations. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.